I think we have Smita. We start. Okay. Well, good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much to all the dignitaries, experts, passionate activists for this such an important issue for which we have gathered today. And thank you for taking your time out and coming to NDRMF. I'm not going to be taking a lot of time because the way we have laid out the program is actually we have a couple of brief presentations, and then we want to have a more kind of a open-ended discussion, and then hopefully by the end of the event today we will come to some kind of cues, action items, and which basically allow us and DNMF to coordinate the efforts and then take those actions forward. In terms of what we can do on this such an important issue. So we all suffer with air quality, and some of us who are actually traveling in Lahore and between Lahore and Islamabad, we all know that the kind of a hassle it creates for us. We were discussing this a few days ago, and we have seen the evolution and the growth of this issue in the last few years. Quite significantly and quite rapidly. So initially, a few years back, it used to kind of shut down or dysfunctional many economic activities and commuting activities few days. It is now extended to more than 2 months now. I think translating this into economic cost, this is going to be quite tremendous. Although the numbers are not there in terms of the economic cost, but I'm sure that they are quite staggering. So thank you very much for this. We have this has been purposefully kind of kept a small little group, and we just want to kind of gather some ideas, hear some thoughts, and then we'll actually going to be building up on this from today's action. If you allow me, we can very quickly go around the table. We have colleagues online as well, but
let's have a quick round of introduction.
Yeah, quick round of introduction. So I'm Bilal Andar, I'm CEO of NDRMF.
So I'm Habib Bukhari, Vice Chancellor of Sahar University, Murray.
My name is Anis. I'm just working for the environment.
My name is Raja Rehan Ashad, and I'm here to learn. Just as a way of background, I've been involved in the development world for almost 40 years. And this is one of the areas which I have not been fortunate or privileged enough to focus on. And that's one of the reasons why I want to learn about this topic.
Thank you. My name is Shafiq Hussain. I'm a senior environmental specialist at the World Bank, and have just moved to Islamabad and will be leading the air quality discussions on the World Bank side. And also one of my proteges. I mean, I am a protege of this man whose shoulders I stand on. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Keshav. I'm from National Institute of Disaster Management, Director Research, NDMA.
I'm Sumita Paik, Research Analyst at NDRMF, and I thank you all for being here for this very important work.
My name is Muhammad Kasam. I am Deputy Manager IT NDRMF.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mary. I'm representing here World Food Program, but basically I led the Smog project, the first study that was in the country on causes of smog and its relationship to different sectors that FAO did with government of Punjab, and I led. So that's the background.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Chaudhry Gazanfar Ali Gondal, BRICS Galam Sector of British Islamabad. Honor Association represented.
Welcome.
My name is Dr. Mohammed Umar. I am CEO of One2It Technologies. We have developed a small heating billboard. It's at MVP stage. And we are into development in climate tech and medical tech technologies. So I'm basically an entrepreneur.
My name is Ali Taqir Sher. I'm interested to breathe clean air and very concerned about the health aspects of it.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Zain Kokar. I'm working as professor at National University of Sciences and Technology.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Noman from FAO. And I just recently joined, so I will be learning rather than just providing my input. But just for the sake of information, I just replaced Mehwish. She joined WFP, and I just replaced her and joined Equator.
Nadia, can you please introduce yourself quickly?
Assalamualaikum, I am member climate change and I'm also on the board of NDRM, a climate change at the planning.
I would also,
Nadia Rahman, the name.
That's right.
I would also request our online participants to introduce themselves. They can unmute and introduce themselves, please.
May I start? My name
Yes.
is Abid Hussaini. I'm now in Lahore and I work for the urban unit. I'm a senior specialist and head the environment and the biodiversity climate change division at the urban unit. So we've been somewhat involved in the climate change related policies, programs in Punjab as well as in other parts of the Pakistan, and actively engaged with the government of Punjab for smog action plan and related research.
Good to have you, sir. Further participants can introduce themselves. We have Priya, Adnan, Dr. Basharat, Mr.
Yes. I'm Dr. Basharat Hassan. I'm basically a civil engineer. I've specialized in environmental engineering as well as alternative and renewable energy. I have been CEO of Alternative Energy Development Board, developing solar, wind, biomass, waste to energy, biogas, biofuels, etc. in Pakistan. And also I have been in CDA for more than 14 years. So air pollution, water pollution, solid waste pollution control, all these were my areas. And at the moment, I'm working for an American 501c3 organization called NAMF as CEO.
I am Rihan Nan. I've done my PhD in environmental sciences and I'm currently working in Lahore.
Thank you, Priya, and everyone else. I would like to request.
I think we have if you please.
I'm Nasim Chitai. I'm representing National Institute of Disaster Management as a manager research. I'm from Lahore and I also am suffering from this.
Thank you very much.
So I would request Dr. Anisur Rahman and Raja Rehan Saab for their introductory presentations, so we may start with our discussion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. We have such luminaries here with us today, but unfortunately, the most important luminary is not here. That's the EPA. The person or the organization that we all need to bring on the table and address this issue is absent. So then I think we'll proceed.
So we were expecting them today.
They confirmed their participation.
Yes, they confirmed.
So, sir, I'll proceed. So we're just going to, we are jointly going to give this presentation, just maybe 10 minutes or so, but we just want to lay the foundation for everybody. I mean, everybody is so senior and in the process, but we just want to slightly. Next.
Sir,
Can I control it from here?
Yes.
Okay. So, sir, we're just going to talk about the public perception because, sir, we are not, I'm not a professional in this field like most of you are, but I'm just going to give a public perception of the issue, what the issue is, what we suggest, and how we can actually implement this issue. The science behind will be given by Dr. Fahim, जो मेरे सामने बैठे हैं. ये आगे नहीं हो रहा मुझसे. जी.
Sir, वो pointer में लगा.
ये use कर सकते हैं.
Sir, remote.
जी.
Just to first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Anisur Rahman, who's the mover and shaker over here. He's the one who really raised this as a very serious issue
And I think now we have reached the point where we are having this roundtable, but in this journey over the last maybe 4 weeks or so, we've had the opportunity to also present this whole issue phenomenon to Bilal, and he immediately said that this is something that they've been wanting to work on, and Dr. Nisar Rahman bringing it to their office or their table. This was something that they felt was the need of the hour. So, as I mentioned earlier in my introduction, I am learning about this topic, and once again, thanks to Dr. Nisar Rahman who raised this with me a few weeks back. And I said this is something that we really need to deal with. And the presentation, I have to give him credit for preparing this presentation. I'm just in tandem going to go through some slides, but it's all his research and his work that we are going to be presenting over here. As he mentioned in the start, we are going to give some idea of the perception of this phenomenon. And I think that's something that we can see in the news media, which a couple of slides will show what the news media is talking about vis-a-vis this phenomenon at the global level, and then also in the context of Pakistan. But more importantly, what this phenomenon is doing in terms of not only the health impact, but there are so many other related adverse effects also that this phenomenon is causing. I'm just to say at the outset that we are currently experiencing heavy precipitation in Lahore. I think in some areas the precipitation has been more than 12 inches and areas are flooded. Now, this is it's a hazard that is playing out, but it's tangible. One can see it. And that's why you see it in the news. What we are discussing over here today is something which is not visible. It's visible during the winter months in most of the cities in Pakistan, but it's visible. And of course, some people, and we just heard from our NIDM colleague over there, that it also affects them in terms of their health. And I know people who leave Islamabad and these other cities for 2 or 3 months and they go elsewhere because the air pollution level or the smog level is so high. But they really don't realize, and that's where the perception comes in, they don't realize the adverse impact it's having on their health. And it's not something which is happening now. It starts, and we'll go through this, it starts when a baby is not even born as yet. A child is not born as yet. And I think that's the kind of unseen effect it's really having. And I think people's perception is already there, but I think that people's perception needs to be changed based on the statistics that we'll be presenting over here, thanks to Dr. Nisar Rahman. And this is the narrative that I think we need to keep as a platform for this roundtable so that we work off this platform. And Dr. Nisar Rahman referred to it as a foundation. I think this is basically a way to bring everyone on the same page. We set the stage, and hopefully in the next hour or hour and a half, we will have a discussion which is going to focus on not only the phenomenon, but its root causes, which is the problem, and how we move forward in terms of both adapting to this problem, but also more importantly, mitigating the risk that is emerging from this problem. So with that, if you can please go to the next slide. So this is something that Dr. Nisar Rahman managed to capture over here. I believe this is from Dawn newspaper of July 1. Yes. July 1, 2024, this year, Dawn newspaper, where if you look at the boxes that we've highlighted, this is the latest State of Global Air 2024 report, which was released in partnership with UNICEF. And if you look at the bottom left highlighted square in red or rectangle, it says that air pollution was the second leading risk factor for death among children under 5. So although some of us in this room do get adversely affected by this phenomenon during the winter months, but more importantly, it's the children of age 5 or below who are getting even more impacted by this phenomenon. And the grown-ups, they do have this kind of a coping, immunity so that they can probably outlast this phenomenon, but children, they generally do not outlast it, and the number of deaths are in hundreds and thousands.
And just to sort of, I know it's a cliche over here, but people say that every breath that you take is moving you or inching you closer to your final breath. But in this kind of a smog and air pollution environment or atmosphere, every breath that you're taking is actually bringing you closer to your last breath, but which is being shortened. Your lifespan is being shortened. So I think we have to look at it in that context as well. It's not just, of course, we believe in your last breath is written, it's fated. But in this case, we are actually contributing towards it. And that's something that we really need to try to figure out how we can address this problem. And because it's an unseen problem, we really should be giving it more importance. If you look at the other box in the middle on the top, according to the statement issued by Fair Finance Pakistan, the report estimates Pakistan has the largest burden of disease linked to air pollution after India and China at 256,000 deaths per annum. Now, if you look at 68,000 children under 5, and then if you look at 256,000 deaths per annum, this is, as I mentioned earlier, it's running into hundreds and thousands. So we really need to start looking at, and especially in the case of Pakistan, as we know very well, records and statistics are not generally that accurate. So we could be talking about the numbers being much higher. We all talk about PM 2.5, particulate matter 2.5, and particulate matter 2.10. But if you look at PM 2.5, exposure to high levels of PM 2.5, ozone, nitrogen oxides begins in the womb and increases children's susceptibility to preterm births, respiratory infections, stunting, cancers, and cognitive development. So it's not just health hazards which are related to breathing or allergies. It goes way beyond that. And these are the kind of illnesses or ailments. I'm not a doctor, but these are silent illnesses. And they are probably, the illness is taking root inside you, but you're not aware of it until such time it becomes a serious illness. If you look at the right box over here, this is where if you look at the WHO standards, Pakistan is already the second most air polluted country in the world with average concentrations of PM 2.5, 14 times higher above WHO levels. Poor air quality shortens life expectancy by up to 7 years, adversely impacts human health and increased burden of disease. Now, one of the areas that in the middle bottom rectangle, one of the areas that this refers to is child stunting. And a recent World Bank report clearly shows that water supply or access to contaminated water and poor hygiene and health practices and sanitation practices contributes in a significant way to child stunting. Here is another reason which we have in front of us, which is also contributing to child stunting. So if you look at these, again, nobody gives any attention to clean drinking water or good health and hygiene or sanitation practices. These are areas where with minimum investment and management of the environment and the services, one can bring about significant improvement in the services in the environment, and then that will have, of course, a direct benefit to the health of a human being, but more importantly to children under 5 years of age. Next slide, please. Here, if you look at this is an article which again Dr. Nisarman managed to dig out. Do you know the time or when? Yes, Sunday. Actually, this is well, just as I said, hot off the press, and it's an article which clearly shows that there's a research that is being conducted by Dr. Alamgir, and he explains that the major sources of pollution in case of Karachi was vehicular emissions. So now we are even zeroing in on the sources of air pollution and smog. And this is not just true for Karachi. I was studying Beijing, and as you know, Beijing is one of the cities which has completely changed its its air pollution and smog levels down to a stage where it's now considered as one of the case studies to be followed. And there as well, 20 years back, vehicle emissions were the main source of air pollution. Followed by construction work in Karachi, unpaved road networks, fossil fuel combustion, industrial emissions, and open waste burning. Now, these are the kind of factors which are not only specific to Karachi. We come across them in Lahore, in Peshawar, even in Islamabad, I'm sorry to say. And so one can easily say that these are probably the common denominators that we have to look at across the country. The next box shows, according to him, several studies have assessed the impact of air pollution on health and linked prolonged exposure to PM2.5 and PM10, with illnesses such as stroke, heart disease, lung cancer, and both chronic and acute respiratory diseases, including asthma. And finally, the concentration of particulate matter reached alarming levels during peak working hours at Hassan Square, Kadabad Nursery. So there are also, if you look at Karachi city, during working hours, there are some hotspots where these levels reach alarming. These levels are really alarming. Next slide, please. This is, I believe, work taken from Dr. Kim Yao.
This is from urban unit, I guess.
From urban.
They have recently. This is.
I think one of your.
Actually, this is this. No, I was looking for this Elias 2007.
So again, Dr.
Yeah, this is mine.
Dr. Anis was kind enough to pick something from your work. I'm just going to highlight two areas on this slide which are in red, and of course we are going to hear from Dr. Fahim also, and he'll expand and dilate on these areas. Vehicular emissions are the primary human-driven source of air pollution in cities worldwide, and I refer to Beijing, and Dr. Fahim, of course, knows Beijing very well. The second is the two frequently used fuels, petrol and diesel fuels, are responsible for releasing multiple air pollutants. So it's important to really focus on these and keep these in mind, because the way forward that Dr. Anis is going to present, and then the presentation that Dr. Fahim is going to make, are really going to talk about these two areas, or this one area, in addition to some other areas also, which can be managed, and we are looking to the table over here, as well as our colleagues or friends who are online, to help us see how we can move forward. Next slide, please. I'm just going to, I know I've taken a lot of time, but just to bring you to this one part which is in red. Until you recognize a problem as a problem, how can you fix it? I'll come back to what I started saying at the outset. It's not tangible, it's not visible, it's unseen. So we don't see it as a problem. It's time that we see this as a problem. And I know some of our participants around this table are focusing, and we have one example over here, and we'll hear from him on how air pollution can be captured, it can be reduced from the environment. To me, these are measures which are reactive. And in some ways, you can also call them that we are trying to adapt to the highly polluted environment. I personally feel, and when I discussed this with Dr. Anis, he said this is exactly what we should focus on. We really need to start, we have to adapt, but I think the adaptations should really start going down, and we have to start mitigating the risk. And that's really what our agenda should be at the end of the day. And for mitigating the risk, we have to zero in and identify the root cause, the problem. And here we know the problem is vehicle emissions. So why can't we stop the vehicle emissions, bring them down to a level which is acceptable? Let me stop there and pass it on to Dr. Haze.
Agla slide दे दें. Actually, we are going to talk about, I think, like Rehan Sahab mentioned, that I think we should be able to only deal with those things जो कि हम कर सकते हैं, वो बातें करें जो कि हमारे काबिलियत से बाहर हैं या हमारे लिए मुश्किल है. हम तो कहते हैं कि जो सबसे आसान तरीका है, that we should, the easiest way to solve a problem is how we should be able to. So we are just going to talk about 3-4 things: smoke emitting public vehicles, transport vehicles. Because law में ना these are entered separately. Public vehicles, transport vehicles, excess traffic due to private schools. फिर smoke emitting vehicles around Islamabad M1 and M2. फिर हमारे ईंटों के भट्टे brick kilns है, industrial emission है और once again, sir, so sad to say that CD is also not here, who is the municipal authority. The two people who are most important on this table are both absent. So, banega kya iska, that is why we don't get far. But sir, so what we are going to suggest is number one. So for public sector smoke emitting vehicles, and sir, public sector means all government departments, universities, colleges, CDA, सबसे बड़ा CDA, because they have maybe over 1,000 vehicles. Sir, we would want most of the NEQS, जो है, National Environmental Quality Standards, are being violated over here. That we suggest under section 15 and 19 that an EPA should send a call of notice to all public sector institutions to ensure that they are in compliance by September 1. 1 month from today, this notice must be issued under this law. And the implementation is by EPA, which is subset the right column, the motor vehicle emission inspection system. This is already a law that they have to follow. And this has to be supported by the traffic police. And obviously, both the organizations are going to say that, we don't have the resource, so this is where I think any donor or NDRF will come in, that who is going to support us. So now I will just show you what is section 15 and 19. What does it say? What does section 15 say, sir? So this is the law of 1996, December 1997. So this is like 25 years ago, this law came in, that no person shall operate a motor vehicle from which air pollutants and noise are being emitted exceeding the NEQS. 25 साल हो गए सर, 25 साल हो गए इस चीज को, और मजाल है कि कोई एक उंगली किसी ने उठाई हो कि इसके बारे में कुछ किया जाए. So sir, this is regulation 15. Now 19 again, very, very clear, sir, that they have separated government organizations. Me and you will be separate, but government organizations, it has mandated that if there is a negligence on part of the head, the other officer, or of a local authority or council, they will also be deemed guilty in contravention along with the agency. So the law is all there. Kanun baitha hua intezar kar raha hai, but absolutely nothing is done. So this is 19 is a special section of the EPA Act, and 11 follows that. So okay. यार इसमें ऊपर लेके जाए चीज पीछे पीछे पीछे. So the first thing that we are going to request EPA to do simply that नीचे पीछे जाए और पीछे जाए, वो जो खानों वाला और पीछे जाए और पीछे जाए और पीछे जाए एक और. So the first thing and very easy thing for them is to call up notice to all the vehicles. So before an EPO, the law stipulates that अगर आपने किसी को EPO, which is an order from the Environmental Protection Agency, उससे पहले आप call up notice देते हैं. आप उनको मौका देते हैं कि आप आके बात करें हमारे साथ and tell us, why do you have a problem and we need to discuss it. But 1 month is more than enough time for that. So call up notice issue करें. अब इसकी डिटेल जो है ना, इसमें डॉक्टर साहब बताएंगे कि उसको किस तरह इंस्पेक्ट किया जाए और उसको किस तरह रोका जाए और उन इंजन को कैसे साफ किया जाए. That is another issue. But that they are mandated कि जी कानून के तहत they have to make sure that their vehicles of the government department do not issue any emissions that are harmful for health. Number one. Number two is private sector. Sir, a private sector में जितने भी the trucks and the buses, public transport that issues huge amount of smoke is issued. Sir, for them, section 15 will count. Section 19 is for government and section 15 is for private sector. Again, we will request that EPA should issue a public notice so that nobody can say कि जी हमें इस चीज का बताया नहीं गया था, with a date that they can visit the APU office to discuss this issue. And also by the September the 1st 2024 they have to make sure that all their vehicles are cleared. सर आप जरा नीचे जाएंगे जी स्लाइड, और एक और नीचे जाएं सर। अब ये देखें, अब ये कानून बना हुआ है सर अंडर द पीपा एक्ट 1997 में, मोटर व्हीकल्स एमिशन इंस्पेक्शन सिस्टम. This is a law which has also been there for more than 20 years. Sir, very simple. Sir, I've just taken it. The air pollution cause have to be addressed under section 15. So section 15 का जिक्र भी है और NEQS दोनों चीजें EPA के पास मौजूद हैं. Currently, all commercial vehicles must be examined by a motor vehicle examiner. Although the system can, through this system, it will be ensured that vehicles flying on the road are properly tuned and have necessarily properly functioning pollution control components. So all the documentation, all the law is sitting in the paper and it is not being followed. वापस ऊपर जाएं. तो सर ये जो पब्लिक सेक्टर की दोनों हमने बात की, इनकी इंस्पेक्शन का एक तरीकाकार लिखा हुआ है, दिया हुआ है, how this has to be implemented, but no action has been taken on it. So these are the first two issues for which EPA only needs to issue a call of notice. One call of notice, and number two, public advertisement that you need before September 21. All public vehicles, trucks, buses, जो मंडी में सामान लेकर आते हैं, जो पब्लिक की बसें आती हैं, you all have to visit the department for motor vehicle examination and get your certification. Third is, sir, that because huge amount of traffic in the morning and in the afternoon, which is related to school children, that this request has to go maybe from this forum or so many forum to the government, that public-private institutions, regulatory authority should tell all educational institutions that single children, two children traveling, you must travel in a public system, or you school आपकी बसों का वैगन का इंतजाम करे. ये एक एक करके बच्चा, इतनी 1000 गाड़ी सुबह निकलती है, 1000 गाड़ी वापस आती है, आपका बचत भी होगी आपकी, और आपके शहर में लोगों की सेहत भी बचेगी. और सर इंटरेस्टिंगली अभी रेहान साहब ने भी मेंशन किया, whenever you look at any of these sites, sir, where you mention AQI and it will mention PM10 and PM 2.5, it will tell you, it will not tell you these things, it will tell you how you have to look after yourself. You have to wear a mask, you have to use an air purifier, you cannot go out and do exercise. सर अब मुझे ये बताएं सर कि सवाए इस कमरे में जो लोग बैठे हैं, इनके अलावा जितनी दुनिया बाहर काम करती है, क्या वो दुनिया में लोग काम नहीं करते? दुकानदार, लेबरर, 1,000 million people work outside. ना वो मास्क पहन के काम कर सकते हैं, ना वो एयर प्यूरिफायर रात को अपने बच्चों को दे सकते हैं. So what are these things for? So we have to address the issue here. Somebody is causing the problems, another person is suffering from it. अगली स्लाइड. सर उसके अलावा ये है कि सर एक और नोटिस हम चाहेंगे कि ये M1 और M2 ये मोटरवे पुलिस को जाए, क्योंकि सर मोटरवे पुलिस is absolutely not doing their duty. It is the best closed system, regulated system in the country of Pakistan is the motorway police. मगर वो बिल्कुल नहीं देखते जितनी गाड़ियां धुआं मारते हुए आप किसी वक्त भी मोटरवे पे चले जाएं. और मैं ये भी बता दूं सर, आप बारिश के दिन जाएं और बारिश के अगले दिन जाएं, there is a black layer of smoke above the motorway that anybody can see. And there is an organization which is very, very efficient when they want to take a fine from you, मगर आपकी जो सेहत के बच्चों का ख्याल है ना, they will not do anything for you. सेक्शन 15 के तहत इनको नोटिस दिया जाए कि अगर जितनी कोई भी गाड़ी आपकी मोटरवे में पकड़ी जाए, तो then you need to be fined for that. ठीक है जी. दिस इज अगेन इम्प्लीमेंट द EPA मोटर व्हीकल इमिशन इंस्पेक्शन सिस्टम के तहत ये करें. सर ब्रिक किल्स वाले हमारे भाई बैठे हुए यहाँ. सर ये ब्रिक किल्स मेरी एक्चुअली क्योंकि आई हैड एक्चुअली अप्रोच्ड द फेडरल ऑम्बुड्समैन ऑन दिस इशू, एंड देन आई हैड अ डिस्कशन विद द डायरेक्टर जनरल EPA आल्सो, एंड शी टोल्ड मी दैट हमने तो ये मसला हल ही कर दिया जी ब्रिक किल्स का, कि हमने उनको नोटिस इशू किए हुए और वो काम रुक गया. ये दूसरी बात है कि कल मैं वहां से गुजर रहा था और ब्रिक किल से इतना काला धुआं निकल रहा था इस्लामाबाद के अंदर सर, ऑन द वे टू द एयरपोर्ट. तो सर ये इसको जब तक इसको मॉनिटरिंग एंड इवैल्यूएशन नहीं होगी ना, तो सर एवरीबडी विल से कि हम काम बहुत अच्छा करते हैं, मगर जब तक उसको मॉनिटर ना किया जाए, डॉक्टर साहब और डॉक्टर साहब जैसे लोग हमारी मदद नहीं करेंगे, it doesn't work. Then again, sir, for them we need a call of notice to make sure that they follow this. They must follow this, sir. और मैं तो ये भी कहता हूँ सर कि अगर वो शिफ्ट नहीं करना चाहते, गरीब लोग काम करते हैं, सर, we should talk to BISP to support those poor people. अगर इन्होंने 3 महीने बंद करना है तो हुकूमत पाकिस्तान का फर्ज बनता है कि बजाय इसके कि वो ईंट बनाए, वो 1 मिलियन लोगों के बच्चों की सेहत खराब करें, उनको हम घर बैठ के पैसे दें, बट डोंट हर्ट the health of other people. सर, इंडस्ट्रियल एमिशन में सर हमें पता है कि ये स्टील री रोलिंग मिल्स हैं, इनका बहुत खौफनाक किस्म का धुआं होता है, तो फॉर देम आल्सो अगेन दिस इज एन इशू दैट EPO, सर सारे का सारा काम उस महकमे का है जो मौजूद ही नहीं हमारे पास.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we will be joined shortly by a
Ma'am,
CDA.
It doesn't make any difference, ma'am. It's all over for us. मतलब ये कि हमने जितनी बातें करनी है, हमने जितनी emphasize करनी बात को, when जब 2 बजे का टाइम दिया, when people commit, they are supposed to come. आखिर ma'am is a very senior government official. If she can come, why can't other people come? तो सर आखिरी इशू.
एक्सक्यूज मी, मैं ये पूछना चाहूंगा, डॉक्टर बशारत बोल रहा हूँ कि साथ साथ कोई चीजें जो आप बता रहे हैं, मैं कुछ क्लैरिफिकेशन देता जाऊं या बाद में फिर सारी आप चाहते हैं कि
सर अगर बाद में, बस आखिरी पॉइंट है सर मेरा, आखिरी पॉइंट है सर, ये वो विंटर्स में सर फ्रॉम अक्टूबर ऑनवर्ड्स फॉल लीव्स गिरना शुरू हो जाते हैं, और उसके लिए CD अगर होता तो इट्स अ वेरी सिंपल इशू सर. उनके ये एक्चुअली सर उनको बार बार मैं खत भी पहले भी लिख चुका हूँ कि प्लीज अपने मालियों को बोले, या जो सफाई वाले होते हैं जब ये जमा करते हैं तो उसको कंपोस्ट कर दिया करें. हर सब सेक्टर, हर गली के एंड में छोटा सा खड्डा देके उनके पते, इट्स अ वेरी वेरी स्मॉल इशू, बट इट इज नॉट एड्रेस. होता ये सर कि फिर वो बेचारे जमा करते हैं, सुबह के टाइम हवा चलती है तो उनको बुरा लगता है, तो व्हाट दे डू इज कि जी इस मसले को हल का यही तरीका है, इसको आग लगा दो ताकि ये मसला ना बने. बट सर if they want to take it just so seriously, it's just so easy to solve the problem. Sir, now going to tell you how we suggest that we solve this problem. आगे चलेंगे. आगे चलेंगे सर. ये इसके आगे सर ये 4 स्लाइडें, ये कानून है सर. आगे चलेंगे और आगे चलेंगे और आगे चलेंगे और अब आगे चलेंगे. अच्छा सर, what we are going to suggest is sir that that the people who are not here, both of them, stage 1 and the traffic police who are also not here, that they should have a pilot project which should cover that these things should be taken care of for the next 2 years at least. Short term जो है ना, इसका फायदा नहीं होगा, इसको 2-3 साल के लिए करना चाहिए. दूसरा सर मैं ये सजेस्ट करूंगा कि हिमालयन वाइल्ड लाइफ जो है, वी विल बी वेरी हैप्पी टू, जब आप बड़े लोगों का फैसला हो जाए कि हम कुछ करना चाहते हैं इस शहर के बच्चों के लिए. सर ये कहना बहुत आसान होता है सर शहर के बच्चों के लिए. सर जब हमारे बच्चे बीमार होते हैं ना और उस माँ को पता नहीं होता सर, एज यू नो एंड एवरीबडी इन दिस रूम नोज, कि मिडिल क्लास फैमिली के लिए जब एक बच्चा बीमार होता है ना, उसका लेवल जो है ना यहाँ से फौरी तौर पे जो है ना वो पॉवर्टी पे गिर जाता है, क्योंकि उसके बच्चे का इलाज, सारी चीजें, बच्चों का, दूसरे बच्चों का स्कूल जाना, माँ बाप का काम पे जाना, माँ का काम, एवरीथिंग विल स्टॉप बिकॉज एक बच्चा बीमार होता है. तो सर दिस इज ए सीरियस बिजनेस फॉर पीपल हु आर नॉट इन दिस रूम, मगर हम उनकी नुमाइंदगी करें. सर हम इसके लिए तैयार हैं कि वी विल गिव एन इम्प्लीमेंटेशन प्लान इन विच वी विल हायर anything between 50 and 100 graduates who we will train for you for free, equipped with technical support from NUST से और EPA उनको ट्रेन करेगी, और हम क्योंकि सर इम्प्लीमेंट ऑन द ग्राउंड करेगी ट्रैफिक पुलिस ना, बिकॉज इट्स ऑल वेहिकुलर इशू. सर वी विल ट्रेन दिस पीपल फॉर यू ताकि वो इस्लामाबाद ट्रैफिक पुलिस की मदद करें, ताकि इस चीज को, ताकि इन लोगों को अंडर द लॉ लाया जा सके. And after completion of codal and legal formalities, we will place them under the umbrella of EPA in the field, and such sufficient funds can be collected as fines, which will be, and such EPA has a fund for this purpose called the Sustainable Development Fund in their law. ये सारे पैसे उसमें जाके अगर साल के लिए 2 साल के लिए कोई डोनर मिल जाए तो उसके बाद EPA can stand, this fund can support this forever and ever. Thank you very much. Very nice.
Thank you, Dr. Haze and Rajan Saab, both of you, for briefing us on the issue and setting the stage for discussion.
Dr. Fahim also has some insights and solutions to share with us. So over to you, sir.
Can you pause on this? Thank you, Raisa and Anisa, for setting ground for me. I'm just gonna tell you some evidence base about what is the current scenario of evolution within the city of twin cities of Islamabad and Delhi. So this work is carried out in collaboration with Department of State and Duke University from US. So we establish air quality monitoring network, and the basis of this monitoring, I'm going to share with you some facts about that. And the last part of position will be about what are actually ready to plug in solutions available, how we can make contribution and difference in the air quality of the region as well. So yeah, I will skip this because a lot have been said about this. So these are recent. So quickly, I would show that there was a first report back in 2021 when Islamabad was actually listed as one of the 11th polluted city in the world, and that was quite shocking. Yeah, yeah. And then we have some other reports follow up for the years. And if you see, so Islamabad was again in the list and was among the top polluted top few, like within top 10. So, but this perception and the myth that Islamabad is a very clean city is not valid anymore. So quickly, I will tell you what are actually the air pollution or air quality challenges across the country and the similar in the Pakistan. So there is a lack of proper air quality monitoring network. Once you don't actually characterize your problem, your issue, what the magnitude, what are the dynamics of these issues, and what are the contributors, you are unable to have an effective and efficient and the cost-effective solution for that. So lack of institutional capacity, like EPAs or other regulators, they don't have actually capacity. They don't have monitoring network, so they have capacity to monitor and regulate. Data scarcity and the sharing is a big challenge across the institutions and across the community. The lack of feedback mechanism. So because of this monitoring network, in the absence of this monitoring network, we don't have feedback about the policies, whether they have been effective or efficient or inefficient, and what was the problem. And so there are technological constraints, there are financial constraints as the big challenge for EPAs to regulate and to establish any monitoring. So, and then lack of awareness among all the stakeholders. So they don't realize individually, they keep pointing finger on each other's, but contribution from themselves is not there. And rightly mentioned by Dr. Anis, that how the gravity of issue is that much that even the marginalized community or population are very vulnerable to this issue. So we should take care of them as well. So this is historical lack of monitoring. We don't have actually the baseline information and inaccuracies in the published data. Even as you rightly mentioned, the numbers given by the international agencies, they are not based on the real facts. Actually, they are underestimating. So for instance, 39 micrograms of metric cube for Islamabad or Pakistan, it's far less than what we observe actually. So, and all these health statistics, especially mortality and morbidity, they are linked to those numbers. So in reality, the facts are actually way beyond that. So weak regional cooperation, particularly overall in Pakistan scenario, because we are primarily affected by our neighbors, especially during the smog season. I'm talking about the Punjab side particularly. Non-existent data sharing, that's another challenge. Lack of transboundary studies as well.
We don't have regional cooperation here, talking about regional.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have the regulator with us over here.
Yeah, that's what I agree. So in the absence of such monitoring network, so satellite remote sensing could be to bridge this gap to a certain extent. But satellite remote sensing can give you a just a qualitative assessment, can give you the pollution hotspot somewhere, but they cannot give you the quantitative assessment. For instance, they give you columnar quantity, which is like good or bad. How good or bad do you need a monitoring network? Okay. Then satellite observations are actually average over larger pixel size, like hundreds of kilometers long. Okay, so that means what they are having they are approximated truth about that. So it's not the real one. The point observations are far higher than average over 100 kilometers. For instance, in the proximity, because dilution factor, wind is actually the main drive. Dilution factor is huge. So if the source is within Islamabad, let's say, and you're averaging over 100 kilometers around Islamabad, so it's not making any sense. Okay, then satellite will have several constraints of accuracy, average over larger area, unable to capture small scale variation in their pollution, intermittent monitoring once per day. There is a diurnal variation in the pollution sources and the meteorology as well. So that means whenever the satellite overpass will be there, they will be representative of that particular minute. Good. Okay, because satellite hardly take a minute to scan over a Pakistan because of larger pixel size. So few minutes data cannot be representative for the 24 hours. So these are the challenges actually. So this project was actually funded by Department of State. We established across the South Asia low-cost sensors, which are very in nowadays. So this is for particular matter 2.5. So initially this project was for just Islamabad city, but I extended up to across the Pakistan. So currently now we have 64 sensors across the Pakistan in major cities, and 34 sensors within Rawalpindi and Islamabad. You see here, this is on the left is Islamabad network, what we deployed in different proximities and vicinities in order to cater for different type of sources like roadside, in the industrial area, in the residential area, and in the relatively cleaner colonies and in slum areas and so on. So just harder to get. And also in Lahore city, we have 4, in Kasur, we have 1, in Karachi, we got 1. So across the country, we try to spread and get the idea of how the air quality is. So in my opinion, I've been very advocate of low-cost sensor because they are the solution for a country like Pakistan, which has capacity constraints, which has financial constraints. Because one conventional US EPA certified is costing you $40,000 to $50,000. 1 point observation, which is called BAM instrument. It's in the year. And this low-cost sensor costs you $700. And we have and giving you accuracy more than 95%. So what's the deal? So only deal is that our regulators are actually are very reluctant to offer these technologies because otherwise they have to work for it. Okay. There is no other reason to opt these options. And this is very not just the capital cost. The operational and maintenance cost is negligible as compared to the conventional monitoring. It's far less. I give you this is comparison what we did in Pakistan. We put our low-cost sensors side by side the US EPA certified BAM instrument. And you see here, above is the cost comparison of both instruments. Here you see the data comparison. The accuracy is above 95%. Okay, and then we look for all the ranges, like in Pakistan or at that particular place, we put in actually Chakwal because there was the only possibility. In Chakwal, we have the range up to 200 micrograms per meter cube. So we We check for the validation purposes in different bins, 0 to 50 range, 51 to 100, and then 1 to 250. And accuracy is above 95% for all these 3 bins. So that means we can readily opt this low-cost sensor because accuracy is there, which was the biggest constraint. Okay, then what are actually the challenges worldwide, not just in Pakistan? Worldwide challenges is that the accuracy, which has evolved over the time, starting from 80, 70%, now it has evolved up to 95%. Then the multitude of data sets. Here, these low-cost sensors provide you data in the time resolution of 1 second. You can tune up to 5 minutes, 1 minute, whatsoever. But this gives you multitude of data set, which is difficult to handle. So we need a solution for that. At NUST, we devise a solution for that. We develop tools, algorithms based on machine learning that give you data just with few clicks. You can actually have a huge summary, which is very informative and help you to be decisive where we have to put the actions, how much action needed, and all these things. The lifetime of low-cost sensor was, so at NUST, before it was referred as up to 2 years. Now we have 3 years, and all the sensors are working properly because of proper maintenance. We do maintenance and validation cycle every 6 months, and they are doing excellent. Then acceptability. These are actually the challenges, and these are very strong challenges, particularly when we talk about the EPA. Okay, so lack of capacity and regulatory authorities. That's why they don't accept it. Lack of certification from world-knowledge organization for low-cost sensors so far, and myth about accuracy of low-cost sensors. Okay. I would say that is now the myth because I have shown you the scientific evidence. Now it's still acceptability by general audience because low cost could be giving you less efficient, less accurate, but in principle it's not. Environmental activists using pressure tool towards regulatory authority. That is also another because in the legal procedure they say this is not certified method. Okay, and this is their lame excuse and escape from liabilities. So yeah, this is just to give you a scenario. Here you see the number of days we have seen which are violated. The red color is with respect to bulk NEQs for 24 hours average, which is 35 micrograms per meter cube. And WHO guidelines, sorry, there's a mistake. It's 15 micrograms per meter cube. WHO, yeah. So the our is 35, which is interim air quality guidelines for Pakistan has opted just that one. Okay. And you see the number of all 34 stations we put it in Islamabad, and you see the number of days they were violating. So 24-hour average. The hits, the instant, they are very much. For instance, this data is 24-hour average, and when this is violating, but at any instant, hourly average, the number is far higher. This is like it will make it easier for you to understand. So with respect to, on the right column, this is with respect to WHO guidelines. So for instance, at Roditon, you have 309 days, which were above the WHO guidelines.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I took a very clean example. This is we put one sensor at Kadazan University, the residential area. It was quite, and we do expect Kadazan University relatively cleaner. And in residential area, we hardly have any pollution. So there was the yellow means sensitive for the elderly people and the sick people actually. And the orange is actually for again, another sensitive group of population. But the rest of the year is, this is data for 2023, by the way. Okay, this is Upslope Town, Peshawar Road, Rawalpindi. So anything orange, red, and purple, that means it's a heaven. Okay, so you see, this kind of outcome is coming from these algorithms, which I told you. So being a policy maker, I can quickly take decision that November, December, January are actually problematic months. I have to take measure on these. I can't stop. I can have odd and even number policy. I can have other traffic management adaptation practices like broadening the traffic peak and all these things. These solutions are actually very well established and viable option that can be obtained. But this kind of tool can help you to take a quick decision making and go for. Okay, then another one at Tenchmara Rawalpindi, we have similar. We see November, October, November, and December, January. This is the main problem time. So this is another area. So for another city, so we have different. So on the right side, you see which weeks were actually the violating and so on. So different way we can play around the data tools. Okay, just to give you the glimpses about that. So this is Lahore, actually, by the way, I just put it. So, and even the Islamabad is, yeah, that one. So, yeah, I would like to play this movie. So in order to overcome all these challenges, what I told you about that, Pakistan is facing regarding the air quality monitoring regulator. So the first solution what we did with that we developed our own indigenous a low-cost air quality sensor, which is half cost of the American cost, which is almost $300. The American one is up to $700. Can you please play the patented already or no? Sorry, patented. We didn't patent it yet, but we have validated with. So this was one solution. That means we can characterize and actually see how bigger our problem is, what is the magnitude, in which exactly area, if we could separate all these nodes within the cities. So definitely it's going to help us very. So this is my concept that what should Pakistan should do. We should go for a hybrid approach. I'm not against that the conventional monitoring should be there. There should be there super sites for just validation purposes, validation of low-cost sensors. So for instance, these hexagonals are actually the conventional monitoring sites, and these are constellations are actually the low-cost sensor that can actually support each other, that can be spread across the parts.
So for calibration as well.
Yeah, for calibration purposes, but yes. And it will reduce the cost, operational cost, and all these things. Just quickly, I'll give you an example. Back in 2022, we had Nust hellfires over there, and that was quickly captured by these low-cost sensors. You see these peaks, and then the numbers were going up to 1,800 micrograms per meter. 350 starts hazardous one, according to NEQS, PAC NEQS, and 300 for US EPA. So you see the variation with respect to the time. We compare with the US Embassy data as well. This is the area where the fires were, and this is the peaks which are actually detected by two sensors which were downwind of this fire flow. You see here, yeah, there's a fire snaps. Okay, this is again the comparison. So these are actually the proposed solution which we have at NUST already developed and ready to plug in. CO2 bin, which is actually over there. If somebody can see the. So this is indoors air purifier less CO2 sequestration. It not just captures CO2, rather it's utilize CO2 for another valuable products. For instance, CO2 which is consumed by this CO2 bin. Can you make it up? So this solution, which will be exhausted after a certain time, that will be used as a feedstock for another industrial application. So it's a win-win situation for both. So it will purify your air indoor spaces. It will sequester CO2 indoor because it's a good proxy for the good ventilation and good healthy conditions in the room. And that can be utilized by other industrial applications which were actually producing more CO2 if they use their conventional feedstock. Yeah, so it's a win-win situation. Similarly, we have devised another solution for the vehicles. It's retrofitting solutions. This is, we call it CO2 arrestor. Yeah, it's just ready to plug in.
It's behind you.
Kept the device behind you.
You have to just flip this pipe with the tailpipe of your vehicle, and it will remove your 45% vehicular pollution without any negative impact on the engine's emissions. That's why we partially draw this 45%. Okay, the third one, what you see the picture over there, this is now erected at the NUST entrance, NUST gate. So we upscaled the CO2 bin concept for larger and also for awareness. We call it carbon sequestration tower. So it also removes particulate matter pollution and also sequesters CO2 as well. So this is soon will be inaugurated like in 2 weeks time or something like this. And then the fourth one is catalytic converter. We have developed a series of catalytic converter, not for the cars, for the motorbikes. And why for the motorbikes? Okay, just a quick statistics about what a mature tree of age 5 years can sequester a year-long 22.1 kilograms of CO2. A CO2 bin can sequester 3 to 4 kg CO2 in 24 hours. Okay, so this is like
huge. So 1/5 of that in 24 hours.
Yes. Yes.
Those are in 1 year.
1/7.
That's what I'm saying.
This is 1 year. This is 24 hours.
That's 24 hours.
24 hours. Yes. Similarly, this CO2 for this setting, if you increase the volume size and the intake, then the ratio will go up. For this size, CO2 arrestor can sequester up to 7 kg in 24 hours, depending on the mobility of the vehicle and all. Okay, and this is like the number of vehicles that has evolved over ICT region. I quickly took this number. I'm not sure whether they are certified or not, but I took from the Islamabad Traffic Police number website. So you see there is a substantial increase in the cars and then the motorbikes. And if I ask you, who is polluting more actually? Any idea who's polluting more? Buses, trucks, cars, motorbikes?
Motorbikes.
Huh? Oh, number of cars are more. Car, it's a car. Number is car. Motorcycles are green.
But the 2-stroke motorbikes are controlling more than cars.
Yes, they are. You're right. Because of this. Normally, this buses and heavy traffic is considered as because the visible smoke is coming out of that. And a motorcycle uses 80% less fuel, no doubt. Emits 30% less CO2 emissions, emit 460% more hydrocarbons. Now that comes to 2-stroke engine. 3,000 times more NOx, 8,000 times more CO.
Is this two-stroke or?
This is two-stroke. Okay. And this is like the gravity of the issue. So although they are in the best number, but they're polluting more. Because some cars do have in Pakistan catalytic converter by default because of the Japanese imported cars. But local cars, I have no idea how many local cars have the catalytic converter. But all the motorcycles does not have any catalytic converter. Okay. So this is like the awareness-based development about the catalytic converter for motorbikes, how they can remove CO and NOx level up to 85%.
सर इस की मोटर बाइक की जो बात कर रहे हैं हम मार्केट में देखा है गली मोहल्ले में से लोग आते हैं इलेक्ट्रिक बाइक है वो शाम को चार्ज लगाते हैं 100 किलोमीटर वो सफर करते हैं
ठीक है, this is an alternative solution. But the thing is, how many people can replace their motorbikes? Now, for instance, if there are 1 million motorbikes, so कितने लोग होंगे जो उसमें इलेक्ट्रिक बाइक में शिफ्ट करना चाहें? आप 108 मिलियन जो 10 लाख मोटरसाइकिल उनको चेंज तो नहीं करेंगे एकदम से कि जी मोटर
अवेलेबिलिटी हो तो हो जाता है 1,40,000 उसकी प्राइस
$3.5 लाख इलेक्ट्रिक मोटर बाइक की 3.5
मैं रोज मेरी बस रोज आदमी आता है उससे हमने पूछा 1,40,000 का लिया चाइना का स्कूटी टाइप नहीं होता जो लेडीज यूज करती है उससे
ठीक है, so you just wait explain
local industry को अगर इस पे
yeah this is like the different type of settings we use
ऊपर से हटा देंगे सर हम पढ़ नहीं सकते
सर एक और फिनोमेना जो आप क्षेत्र के लिए बता रहे हैं उसकी भी ज्यादा जरूरी है कि हम इस्लामाबाद की बात करें
प्रैक्टिकली कहाँ से
इस्लामाबाद में कुछ अर्से पहले तक आपको मोटरसाइकिल बहुत कम मिलते हैं रीजन थी कि इस्लामाबाद का वेदर ऐसा होता है कि मोटरसाइकिल को सपोर्ट नहीं करता सर्दियों में बहुत खासी ठंड होती थी और गर्मी में फ्रीक्वेंट बारिश होती थी तो इसलिए मोटरसाइकिल इतनी वायबल ट्रांसपोर्ट नहीं हुआ करता था आपको क्लाइमेट चेंज की वजह से यहाँ पे अब वो दोनों चीजों के अंदर चेंज आ चुका हुआ है तो इसलिए मोटरसाइकिल यहाँ पे अब आना शुरू हो गया अगर आप वैसे बात करें बड़े शहरों की लाहौर की कराची की तो वहाँ पे मेरे ख्याल में स्टैटिस्टिक्स डिफरेंट होंगे वहाँ पे मेजर सोर्स ऑफ पोल्यूशन फ्रॉम ट्रांसपोर्ट जो होगा वो मोटरसाइकिल होगा मैंने यहाँ पर
I did study for you right for Lahore. So 70% composition of equivalent fleet is motorbikes, 2 and 3 wheelers.
बहुत ज्यादा हम presentation पहले कर ले फिर discussion कर लेंगे.
This is exactly the various type of catalytic converter which were developed, tested at NUST, their accuracy, their removal efficiency for the blue one is CO and the red one is NOx. So the range is like starting from 30 to up to 85%. Right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing very valuable and intuitive solutions with us. Before I open the forum for discussion.
Mike, please.
Before I open the forum for discussion, it's a kind request to keep it very focused, for we may have solutions and way forward at the end of the discussion. So over to all of the other esteemed participants. Thank you.
With the permission of
Please.
Thank you very much for sharing such a nice presentation, starting from Anisa. So let me bring my introduction here. To be honest, we've been working on, started my career with respiratory infections back in 2001-2. Whooping cough was the subject, worked on tuberculosis later on, work on diarrhea, preterm birth, stunting, published in a scientific report recently about data. What are the causative agents? Well, let me take a step back, link this whole story with that problem, because that's a vicious cycle. And that started in utero, the mother basically. So that's exactly what you were saying, the respiratory disease, what we have been seeing with the diarrheal diseases and the sanitation and hygiene conditions, along with the nutrition factor. What happens basically when, early, when the mother conceives, that's the time when she's exposed to various sorts of pollutants, including bacteria, viruses, fungus, in the environment, whatever, and also these particulate materials. Now, that's basically when it starts, it affects basically their physical and mental and cognitive impairment comes in the hippocampus where the memory retention comes in. That mechanism is being interfered by all these factors, which includes microbes and these particulate materials. Well, that needs to be understood in order to implement that. UNICEF suggested about 37% a few years back were the children with the stunting in Pakistan top of the list. Now, that translates about 8 to 10 million children, if I modestly say that. And that's the number which we can prevent and save the lives, to be honest, to set how it is impacting this epidemiological studies, linking with the public health, bringing into the environment and the air pollution can also play a vital role in that. We need to see that data. Now, we have seen that what we have done that with your data, mapping different hot zones where we studied these preterm deliveries, where we studied these children with the stunting in area vicinity of Islamabad, Lahore, and the major cities. Now we can map that data. Data integration is very important, which is lacking. That's where the stakeholders which are sitting here can play a vital role. So we can map that, and already existing historical data mapped on those factors and statistics can also tell you these factors can play a role. So that's existing data, and then based on that, build future plans how these can be impacting the public health. Now that's something which can sensitize. Madam is sitting here, she can take that on a floor, that how it is impacting human health, because unfortunately we're selfish people. Unless it is not impacting us, we are not going to, discuss that on the floor. Now, the other thing which you are suggesting about we've already stated about the data and all that. Now, the other thing which you are suggesting, what is the way forward now? The solutions. Now, what we see in Murray, because this is where we are trying to give a solution for the waste management. So this is another area where the waste can be converted into a livelihood, where the value addition can be made through the different ways and the different strategies can be brought into. We were giving a solution for the waste, for example, a hotel waste, which is the food, can be converted into the value addition like a compost, like a poultry feed, organic feed in the form of using the certain insects, which we are using it, and we've already done the pilot. At the same time, the biodiesel is another area where the microalgae and other microorganism can come, which can give you a solution in a small scale. City like Murray, motorbikes, you mentioned already that. So those are the kind of a solution which can we bring in a small university. You mentioned about the university can come and play a role with the little transportation efforts within a city, and we can try those things and how that we can generate about with a small unit 500 liters of a biodiesel in order to see that how it works in a small area using the waste oil from the hotel industry. There are 300, 400 hotels there. We're using that as polluting the environment as well as in the soil as well. So you can use that and convert that into a biodiesel, and that can be used. One of the solutions where the vehicular emission can be controlled by these nature-based solutions. The third thing which I wanted to mention here, the weather stations which are present here lack those facilities that you also mentioned. They are very limited, and they do not have a capacity to capture those SO2 and nitric oxide, because they can do the humidity, rainfall and other things, but they are not linked with those data. So we can basically upgrade those weather station and place those weather station. And Sheikh Sir was mentioning about Murray is one of the most polluted, but we assume that we go there for a vacation and it's relatively clean unless and until evidence can be created. So you've already placed those sensors in various places in Pakistan. So I would suggest, Bilal Sahib, through your, so why not to bring Murray, Lahore, and in between them is Islamabad. Islamabad, we have already mentioned that from the data. Let's see that how it is being, those sensors can be placed along with those sensors, the filters which can basically capture those. The final thing is the source tracking. That is most important, where the contribution coming from, as I said, the 44.5% coming from transportation, 20% is coming from industry, 20% from this clean and all those, and then the power plants are also contributing about 10 or 12%. That's a rough estimation. But what's the source tracking? What sort of a particular material they are contributing, and how they are modifying the air microbiome? Now that's something where we are inhaling. It means the air microbiome, all the bacteria in a cleaner environment, fungi, viruses, is not being done. China has recently done some studies on that. And that's what we inhale. And along with all those particulate material, they develop an ecosystem in the air. And nature has kept a solution that those biochemical pathways are also utilizing, degrading those whatever particulate materials in the air, in the soil, inside the human as well. So that collectively, if it can be studied together, then it can give you a real impact that those particulate materials along with the ecology around the air. So that can be a good solution and a way forward, combining to see the total or holistic impact on the public health. And source tracking can be done using certain physical techniques, allowing us to reaching to the industry, which is contributing in those, creating those particulate materials, whether there's 2.5 or 10. So that's something which can perhaps be scientifically linked with the problem and addressing the solution. So gradually building on that. Thank you very much. Not taking too much time.
I would like to answer your couple of questions. I mean, very.
My suggestion is to take a few comments.
Okay.
And then, of course, great. But maybe we can also hear from the participants who are online, who can alternate.
Yes, the participants who are online, please, if you have some insights to share.
Yes, I am Dr. Basharat. I would like to mention the main problems, air pollution problems of Islamabad. First of all, hospital waste pollution. You know, at BIMS Hospital, Islamabad, which is right at the center of Islamabad, there are 2 incinerators and they emit highly poisonous carcinogenic smoke 24/7. So there are ways in which this can be controlled. So mitigation strategies have to be applied. For the brick kilns, we can have the zigzag technology, which will solve almost 60 to 80% of the problem. Then there are steel furnaces and re-rolling mills. Steel furnaces are a greater problem as compared to re-rolling mills. There are several ways in which pollution from steel furnaces can be controlled. We can guide you if you are interested. Because of the paucity of time, I will not be able to explain all the devices that can be applied. Then we have the problem of road sweeping and road shoulder sweeping in Islamabad. In the morning, they start at about 6 o'clock and they keep sweeping by 8 a.m. So if you monitor air quality in that period, even in the posh areas, you will find a very high concentration of particulate matter in the air. So that has to be controlled, and there are ways in which this pollution can easily be controlled. Then you have some cement plants in close vicinity of Islamabad. Pollution from those plants come over Islamabad. So various devices have to be used to control that pollution, and they have to be maintained properly. Then we have the solid waste burning problem. CDA and RWMC collect solid waste from Islamabad and Rawalpindi and dump that together in Rawalpindi, and then to reduce its volume, they set it on fire. Also in various other sectors of Islamabad, this solid waste is directly burned. I would not use the word incinerated, but burned, causing carcinogenic smoke, which can easily be controlled, and this waste can easily be converted into energy. Then we have the problem of wastewater. From the decomposition of organic matter, putrescible matter in the solid waste as well as in the wastewater, methane is generated. As you know, Pakistan is the 7th largest emitter of methane in the world. 151 million tons CO2 equivalent of methane is generated every year in Pakistan, which is causing this global warming and the greenhouse effect and the heat waves as well as floods and droughts and everything. So this sort of pollution has to be controlled. Methane emission, this is again air pollution problem. This has to be controlled and directly related to climate change. Then we have industrial gases and I'm not talking about wastewater pollution or solid waste pollution at the moment because the topic is just air pollution. So the air pollution from industries has to be controlled. Power plants, although there aren't any power plants in Islamabad which are emitting such gases, but there are diesel generators, a lot of them, especially in the posh areas and in the industrial sectors and in the blue area, commercial area. Those generators emit a lot of pollution. So there are ways to control them, and regulations have to be applied. People have already talked about vehicular pollution, so I would not repeat it. So I believe these are the problems which have to be addressed properly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. If anyone else has to say something.
Maybe from the table. If I could come through, thanks very much. I have to leave soon, so I just hope I can get some airtime. First of all, thank you very much for inviting the World Bank to this incredible work and team that you have put together. I did hear about it before my last visit to Pakistan, and I've been working in Pakistan since 2016. Well, I started work here when I was 2016, and this was an issue then. And it's great to see that such leaps and bounds have been made in this respect. So the World Bank, from the World Bank's perspective, this is a serious issue that we've noted. We have started looking at we have started diagnostic work, essentially understanding where the main issues are. And a lot of this I hear from around the table already. I see a lot of the what, but what I'm really encouraged by is seeing how you have come together to now address the how. How do we actually move this forward? And your presentation, sir, I didn't get your name earlier, was sort of representative of what we're trying to look at in our discussions with the government. Having specific, tangible things that you want to do, like talking about Section 15 of the EPA, talking about Section 19, who it applies to, but also having tangible tasks of what can be done. I'm certainly going to take this back to the World Bank, because I'm literally having a meeting this afternoon. Sorry, it's my first week, so I'm having a lot of meetings of everything. And I think this was a very, very important meeting for me to be at, to understand and take this forward. So I have asked for the presentations, and hopefully we'll be in touch with you. But just to give you an idea of what our diagnostic says, and I hear your point on the aspect of poor data and poor monitoring, et cetera, but from the source of portion of that we've done so far in the current diagnostic, which is going to be launched this month, and I hope that you will all attend, and I'll make sure that your details are all put into that distribution list, is that we're looking at the issue of the residential air pollution. This is mainly looking at indoor air quality, specifically talking to the issues that of women and as well as children, and the effect it has, the health effects it has on them. 23% of the air quality in Pakistan is attributed to indoor air quality, 16 to transport, 15 to manufacturing, 11 to agriculture, and 7 to waste burning. So of that, we're looking at what the main priorities are, discussing it with the government. We're having discussions next week. But I think this is something that we need to know, are we talking in the right direction? And you will advise us in that respect. And I think that that's something that I would like to continue doing with yourselves. But please do know that this is something that we are looking into, and certainly would like to continue the dialogue on going forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for extending your forum to this important issue. And Dr. Thank you for mobilizing us on. And your presentation and focus is inspirational. And when you start selecting your first 100 kids, please do include me. I would like to enroll for that group of activists, younger activists in that. I think the assumption here is that the violation of law is something that can be checked. I wish I could agree with that. It does not mean that I do not lend support to the initiative. One of the reasons that, sir, I have a point for you. Please, I'll come to that point very quickly, just for you. The very fact that EIA regime failed in this country was that the government refused to submit public sector projects to it. They thought environmental agenda is for the private sector only, not for them. So if they use a fleet that is polluting and violate the deliberate policy, it's not negligence. So we need to address that question. I want to make 3 points, and because the gentleman has to go, one will deal with World Bank. The other one, ma'am, deals with you because we are very fortunate to have you from the Planning Commission, and one will deal about the activism, the problem that we have here. First, about this excellent data. The problem, ma'am, is that the government enjoys monopoly on data. No matter how the disruptive technologies have made it easier, cheaper, more widespread, more reliable, more credible, and universally acceptable, the government of Pakistan says the data that we have is the only data that we accept, everything else is not. The policy forums that you sit in, I think that monopoly needs to be shed. This in no way means that the government data is not good enough, but we all have read hundreds of government reports, and we know oftentimes the data is government data, and we know it's a bogus data. It's not very credible. And because you sit in the Planning Commission, I think you can help us lead in that process, that the data dealing with at least environmental issues or air quality issues can be accessed, and he has proposed hybrid kind of mechanism. At least they can be piloted and tested. That's one point. And I thank you. I think the World Bank started in this domain in 2002 or 3 when they first produced health and climate related book showing the number of beds used because of health in the system. But problem here is governance. If it is not my business to be in your kitchen, I should not be. It is not Ministry of Climate Change job to give us climate change, to give us a national clean air policy. Why? The domain is 32 kilometers. In the policy that is in front of me, they have given 5 sectors, all of them are provincial. So if the recommendations are about the provinces and the provinces don't have their own clean air policies, then the government policy will be only a wishful thinking. It cannot be implemented. It will not have the teeth. It will not have the resources. It will not have the measurability and so on and so forth. So my problem is that there are many, many ambiguities that we have between provincial and federal subjects in our laws and regulations, if not in the constitution, that need to be resolved if we want to have an action on the environment, on the air quality issues. I just want to give you an example. The quality of fuel determines the level of air pollution in cities. And the fuel import is a federal policy. And I think there is sufficient evidence available to us that we purchase from the international market a third grade fuel to sell at the premium price to the consumers. And the gap means higher health bill, but more spending money available to the federal government. So the problem is, what do I do with this? If I live in defense, my air is not as polluted. If I go to the inner city, it is. So, and that's a federal subject. So that's a very, very related with this is that air quality is seen as a poor man's, not rich person. It's an elite capture of the issue. You are welcome to my city. You go to the Kosar market. For last 2 or 3 years, I see a charging station for BMW. And we were talking here about 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers, right? That's called elite capture. And I have personally worked on a GCF project to saying that how do we mainstream 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers in EVs, whatever. Just to say that because these 2 and 3-wheelers are mostly used by the poor people and in dense part of the city, and they result in unclean air, it doesn't necessarily mean we cannot focus on that. I want to come to my last point. One was data monopoly, man. I wanted to request you. The second was the governance at the central. And I understand that the bank is also interested in looking at in a transboundary context.
Absolutely.
And if that is the case in New Delhi, the wives of Foreign Office people said that it's our issue also. And nobody is more elite in these two countries than the Foreign Office, right? And that helped the advocacy. Then they also developed a portal and they started populating the data, making it more accessible to schools and colleges. You go to IMD, Indian Met Department, and the long wall will have the live data. And then they have the stations all over this city to show the pollution levels in different parts of it. And now you can see the data on your phones, you can see it on your watches, you know, the kids see that more than we do. And therefore the question is, if it is perceived as an elite activity, and if the state is a direct beneficiary of that, I just gave you one example of few. The state is a beneficiary of this. Then how do we subvert that practice? That is the key challenge. And one is, of course, breaking the data monopoly. And second is engaging elite-like people sitting here in some degree of activism. And that, Dr. brings me to my concluding point. It's so well focused, your presentation. And sorry, sir, I stopped you. My apologies. But because you are invoking certain clauses of the law, and this is not the first time they're being violated in the country, and these are not the only ones they're violated. We can initiate a process, but who is your counterpart? I am part of I'm an amicus curiae with the Supreme Court on Islamabad's master plan. And from my best efforts for the last 3 years, we have not been able to bring them to our meeting. This is serious job. Living clean air is serious. It's not Ministry of Climate Change. It's not EPAs. EPA is a regulator only. But essentially, it's a serious job to people. They don't come to the table despite Supreme Court order. So the question is, if the first ladder we do not succeed, that we will go on, that I think we have already discussed with some colleagues, maybe a petition. Petition makes it a little high profile. And I think there is a sufficient degree of judicial activism to support this kind of thing. At least to that extent that it will come in public knowledge. Sorry, it's a longish, but it's a very strong point that where do we go? Because this maze will, next 2 years will be.
Sorry, just in continuation, I just, the only senior most, actually the only government official who is here is Nadia herself. So I just wanted to ask, it may be jumping the gun a bit, but is it possible that you could talk to, because he is answerable to the Ministry of Climate Change. Is it possible that you could talk to them that we consider this a serious business and a serious lapse that they didn't even, despite confirming their attendance, they haven't even attended? Is it possible that you could lean on them a little bit?
Yes, of course, it is possible. In fact, we approved a project for strengthening the federal EPA, and that was the first project that has been approved in the last about a decade or 6 years for sure. It was approved last year and we did that. So we have that kind of, the mandate to be able to do that. But having said that, we talked earlier, Sheikh Saab talked about the governance and the fact that there is many of these subjects are devolved. But so we have the example of food safety laws, we have the example of a single national curriculum. So there are examples of cooperative federalism between the federation and the provinces to come together, formulate laws, and that can be harmonized. The federation can set the baseline laws. The the provinces can make them more stringent, but they can't relax them below. So there are those precedents. Using those precedents, we are now moving forward with implementation of strengthening the governance in climate change. Having said that, there's a whole lot of focus on climate change now and the climate change policy Act of 2017 and the EPA Act of 1997 has now been almost forgotten, and it is not even, nobody is talking about it. Climate change appears to be the new point of contention between different departments and governance, etc. When for EPA we have authorities and they are almost dysfunctional. They have not been able to exercise their authority and mandate. One of the reasons is that it's been relegated as a side issue. Climate or environment has always been treated not as a mainstream issue, but a side issue. So now this was an excellent forum, Bilal, and thank you very much, Dr. Saab and yourself, Rehan Saab. And Dr. Saab, for bringing all key stakeholders together. It was a very, very well put together dialogue, very comprehensive. I've attended many, and this had outcomes, this had suggestions, regulations, and also innovations. So the next step, we talked about law and enforcement. Having law and not being able to enforce it is that we do not have alternatives, cost-effective alternatives. We talked about cost-effective alternatives. Those have to be scaled. Do we have venture capital in place? Can we bring in the state to create the demand to scale it, to make it economically possible, instead of making 100, you can make so many more if the state adopts those, the technologies. And we have the federal fora and provincial fora, the PNDs and the Planning Commission to do that, to mainstream and adopt such technology. We talked about Duke University, it is my alma mater. I studied about 20 years back, I studied AI, and at that time we were doing research papers on self-organizing networks and using remote sensors to inform different kinds of activity, self-organizing overlay networks. So now it's good to see all of those and cost-effective solutions come into the market. So venture capital, alternative solutions, because once you penalize these and start bringing in regulation, it could be congestion control taxes. During the course of a day when the congestion is high, taxes could be introduced so that people are encouraged to do carpooling. And in the meantime, the government can start green transport buses for schools. We can start that program along with the Chinese that are four-wheelers, right? So there is an I'll talk about the industrial policy later, but there is an EV policy. It's right now for three-wheelers. We've now encouraged them because for four-wheelers, there's a lobby, Toyota, Suzuki, etc., for internal combustion engines. So they've not been able to bring them in. However, we've started pushing them to do it for trucks and buses so that we can have mass transit solutions. And we have to give alternatives, right? So the government can adopt some of these technologies that you've talked about. Then there are mass transit solutions, there are congestion taxes, that encourage behavioral change, nudge them in a certain direction with these congestion control taxes or EPA penalties, etc., by providing cost-effective solutions and also having. So from all of this, what we would like to see is a policy note. NDRMF would produce a policy note with these recommendations. I have written pretty much everything down also. And you can share the presentations with us. We can work with you to prepare that policy note. We can then translate it into climate finance, carbon finance, because we have mitigation in this, those carbon and also traditional CDWB projects, which can scale this And we can start with Islamabad, and then we can bring in other cities that are seeing they have a high degree of natural capital, such as Karimabad and Naran and Mari. So they are seeing an influx, and they'll lose that natural capital if we don't intervene now. So Islamabad, and then bring in some of these hotspots which are growing, where we have a lot to say, right? Larger cities like Karachi and Lahore would require a whole lot of involvement of municipal governments. They are larger, although we have started a solid waste management project with the World Bank, the largest in South Asia, called Sweep in this city of Karachi, where solid waste burning, etc., that would be translated into producing power, right? So there is that end-to-end kind of a project. It's a large project. It's been approved. It's called SWEEP. It has to go to ECNIC now. So we are working on the most important thing, which was the two things that were eye-openers for me, were that three-wheelers are the highest emitters. Because earlier I would say, okay, we have an EV policy, but why does it only focus on three-wheelers when the source of emission could be elsewhere? But this is where we have a policy, and we have to now scale it. And the government can provide that impetus, and when we scale it, it would become cost-effective. And we already have several players in the private sector who are trying to look for venture capital, and we can increase that. We can bring in more funds for that also. So that, and the most important was nutrition. I'm also a member for nutrition, for stunting. So I have seen many reports. It talks about wash interventions. It talks about health interventions, behavioral change interventions. It talks about food security interventions, all kinds of interventions, but I have not seen air pollution interventions. The fact that this is a major driver, we can really link our national industrial policy, EV policy, and transport policies, all of that, to the stunting program. It is a high priority program for the government now. And we have made a convergence program for it at the Planning Commission, which is because as we have doctors in the room, we have experts in the room. With nutrition, you cannot solve the stunting problem if you don't have spatial and temporal convergence of interventions, which are nutrition specific and sensitive at the same time. If you address only one aspect of it now, and address, you provide them quality food and nutritional supplements, but you do not give them clean water, there's going to be diarrhea, there's going to be, so you're going to lose all of that. So there has to be a convergence of interventions. So we've started a convergence program, which is going to start from certain districts, and so I would like to, people in this room should form a formal group. I wouldn't want to call it a committee because we have so many of those, but an advocacy group, a pressure group, a policy group, so that we can translate this into tangible projects, not just projects, but programs, which will strengthen our existing regulation. Existing regulation can only be implemented, as we reiterate, if we have cost-effective solutions and other nudging kind of behavior, awareness creation, so that people can actually make that shift. All of that has to work together to enable that shift. And then finally, the government adopting those standards in larger scale projects to give it that scale. So looking forward to seeing this, to scaling the solutions. I would like to take your contact also. And I haven't talked about the data governance aspect of it. Yeah. We do have, the government does tend to get territorial at the Planning Commission. We have the Pakistan Bureau of Statistics. I worked on one of the COVID surveillance programs. It was an AI-based program. I had to work on PBX computers. They did not allow us to take the census data away to superimpose infection data on it. So they can be territorial about it. Having said that, at NDRMF, we've created the National Catastrophe Model, and that model is going to consolidate data from all different authorities and will be housed at NUST. So that is, and those interfaces to that data will be open to university students and also entrepreneurs so that they can come up with solutions. So we have started moving in that direction to democratize, using the word democratize, that's used in academia, to make it more available so that we can have more more innovations and solutions around AI and machine learning to use that right. And then these decision support systems can be adopted by EPA. We can bring in that project too, because since it's going to be leading to mitigation, we can apply for climate finance, blended finance, get World Bank to fund it. So many things have been discussed here, from localizing industry to strengthening, implementing our, providing cost-effective solutions. So we have to keep this advocacy group and policy group in place. Let's not call it a committee. But thank you very much.
Can I add something, please? Sorry, thank you so much, ma'am. And I am so glad you mentioned mass transit. Maybe quickly, please, I'll just stand so everyone can see me. Sure. So I'm so glad that you mentioned mass transit because I wanted to put something in context. And first of all, my name is Amira. I'm the head of sustainability at NUST. So मैंने PBS के statistics निकाले हुए हैं, and we talked about how vehicular emissions are the primary cause of air pollution smog in Pakistan. So vehicles are the but contextually, if we look at it from a larger perspective, PBS में 2014 का data मेरे पास इधर है कि 15 million vehicles were registered in 2014. इसको double भी कर दें, triple भी कर दें. And you divide it by the number of people in Pakistan, you still have less than 5% of Pakistanis who own cars.
Yeah.
So the entire issue is quite elitist in nature, and that's why the taxing thing that you mentioned is really, well thought out, because taxes are the way to go, because these are the Amira. Yeah, we met a lot. Yeah. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents that I wanted to add. Okay, this is a very, very सबसे ऊपर वालों का issue है. We're investing a lot in road infrastructure, and जैसे D12 का भी जो नया roundabout बना था, because I live there. All of that, जो I-9 की side से air pollution, and that's mostly caused for the last 3 years because of that highway that's being built over there. That doesn't seem to be ever finished. So a lot of kids that are being born over there, I'm seeing it with my own eyes in my own family, how they're experiencing asthmatic issues, and kids under 1 be ending up in the hospital. So this is a very elitist issue in nature. So that's just what I wanted to add in context to all of this.
Of course, sir. Just to add that we also have been joined by a representative from CDA. We have DG Deputy Environment Rana Tais. Sir, please, if you could join us on the table so we can hear from you as well.
मेरा नाम राना ताहिर है. आई एम फ्रॉम CDA और मैं वहाँ पे एज अ डिप्टी DG एनवायरनमेंट काम कर रहा हूँ. बेसिकली एयर क्वालिटी इस वक्त डिटेक्ट हो रही है इस्लामाबाद की ड्यू टू वेरियस इश्यूज, जिसके अंदर सबसे ज़्यादा आपका व्हीकल का जो पोल्यूशन है वो आ रहा है. इस साथ ही साथ इंडस्ट्रियल पोल्यूशन भी मौजूद है, और साथ आपने जिक्र किया फैक्टो सीमेंट का भी. CDA इन इश्यूज के ऊपर काफ़ी हद तक कर भी रहा है, और उनके जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव और टेक्निकल इश्यूज हैं उनको देख भी रहा है. सबसे पहले मैं बात ये करना चाहूँगा कि फैक्टो सीमेंट के ऊपर 2015 के अंदर CDA ने उनके जो माइनिंग ऑपरेशंस थे उनको ख़त्म कर दिया था, लेकिन उनकी जो फैक्ट्री थी वो मटेरियल्स रिसीव कर रही थी फ्रॉम द टेक्सटाइल साइड, और उसके ऊपर जो हम पिछले 1 साल से इसके ऊपर काम कर रहे हैं, जिसके अंदर कुछ लिटिगेशंस मौजूद भी हैं, जिनकी वजह से फैक्ट्री को हम जो लाइसेंस है उसका कैंसिल करने में अभी तक कामयाब नहीं हो सके हैं. इसके अंदर जो मेन इशू था वो ICT का था, तो CDA का उसके अंदर अपने रोल्स को वो खत्म कर चुका है। इसी तरीके से आपने बात की है इंडस्ट्रियल एरियाज की। इंडस्ट्रियल एरिया के अंदर भी हमारा इशू ये है कि I9 साइट के ऊपर हमारी इंडस्ट्रीज मौजूद हैं जो एयर पोल्यूशन के अंदर अपनी कंट्रीब्यूशन दे रही हैं, लेकिन उसके ऊपर भी हमारी अल्टरनेट साइट जो है हम उनको देना चाह रहे हैं आउट ऑफ द सिटी, लेकिन उसके अंदर नेगोशिएशंस चल रही हैं, लेकिन अभी तक उनके ऊपर मटेरियलाइज नहीं कर सके हैं। रही बात आपकी व्हीकुलर जो पोल्यूशन है उसके ऊपर, आपने रिसेंटली देखा होगा कि इस्लामाबाद में जो हमने ट्रांसपोर्टेशन के लिए बसेस इन्वॉल्व की हैं, उसके अंदर हमने EV बसेस को लाना शुरू कर दिया है, और हम ऐसा ऐसा अपने डिपार्टमेंट के अंदर भी जो छोटी व्हीकल्स हैं यानी मोटरसाइकिल्स वगैरह, वो भी हमने उस पर बैन कर दिया कि वहाँ पर वो चीज़ हम एंटरप्रेन्योर नहीं करेंगे, ताकि जो हमारी तरफ से कंट्रीब्यूशन है वो बेहतर से बेहतर। इसका जो रेमेडियल मेजर है तो उसके अंदर हमने प्लांटेशन को बहुत ज़्यादा फोकस किया है इस दफा। आप IWMB और CDA दोनों ने मिलकर जो आप माइवेला हिल्स हैं इसके ऊपर 10 लाख प्लांट्स इस सीजन के अंदर लगाने की जो है कोशिश हमारी चल रही है, और उसमें एफर्ट्स विद जो हमारी सिविल सोसाइटी है, इसके अलावा हमारे साथ जो CSR बेस के ऊपर जो कंपनीज हैं वो कंट्रीब्यूट भी कर रही हैं और वो काम कर भी रही हैं।
सॉरी, आपने चीज मैं कहना चाहूंगी, आपने कर दिया आप
जी नहीं। इसी तरीके से जो आपने बात की है ब्रिक्स क्लियरेंस की, इसके अंदर हमने जो जून 5 है उसके ऊपर से ब्रिक्स क्लियरेंस हमने खत्म कर दिए थे, और अभी हमारे कुछ ब्रिक्स क्लियरेंस हैं H17 साइट, H16 साइट के ऊपर, इनके अंदर ऑपरेशंस चल रहे हैं और हम उनको कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि मैक्सिमम खत्म हो जाए यहाँ से। जिगजैग के ऊपर भी नहीं हम जाना चाह रहे, क्योंकि जिगजैग अगर हम करते हैं तो डेफिनेटली आपको पता है वहाँ पे सॉइल एरोजन और दूसरी चीज़ों का फैक्टर इन्वॉल्व होना शुरू हो जाएगा, और वो हमारे जो है प्लान के मास्टर प्लान के हिसाब से सेक्टर्स हैं, तो इस वजह से हमने उसको कोशिश ये कर रहे हैं कि यहाँ से खत्म हो जाए। इसी तरीके से आपने सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट की बात की है, वहाँ की कंट्रीब्यूशन है, अगर आप देखें तो हमारे पास किचन वेस्ट ज़्यादा है और दूसरा जो कंबस्टेंशियल मटेरियल है वो कम है, तो और साथ ही साथ उसके ऊपर एफर्ट ये चल रही है कि हम न्यू कॉन्सेप्ट्स के साथ जो स्वीपिंग का कॉन्सेप्ट है वो लेके आए, जिसके अंदर आप ये देख लें कि वॉशिंग है, प्लस ये है कि हम जो है स्वीपर्स मैकेनिकल स्वीपर्स ले लें, ताकि जो ये डस्टिंग का इशू आप बात कर रहे हैं इसके ऊपर कम से कम इशू रेज होना शुरू हो। तो सर ये हमारी एफर्ट्स हैं, और हम आगे इसके अंदर ये भी चाहते हैं कि जो भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है जो हमारे साथ आके बैठ के इसके अंदर सॉर्ट आउट कर सकती है, हेल्प आउट कर सकती है, क्योंकि देखिए रिसोर्सेज बड़े लिमिटेड हैं और उन रिसोर्सेज की लिमिटेशन के साथ ही हमने काम करना है।
लेकिन अगर सर क्वेश्चन आपसे पूछिए, बताइए आपके होराइजन पे, आपका एनवायरनमेंट डायरेक्टरेट है, आप उसकी तरफ से है ना?
जी जी, आपके
होराइजन पे है कि 2-4 लोगों का छोटा सा यूनिट क्लीन एयर पे बना लें?
सर बिल्कुल, अगर आप आएंगे तो हम बिल्कुल उसको करने की कोशिश करेंगे।
ये साइंटिस्ट लोग हैं, ये डेटा इकट्ठा कर सकते हैं, कुछ लोग
बिल्कुल ठीक है, बिल्कुल ठीक है।
आपके हाथ में गवर्नेंस है, आपके पास में इतने रिसोर्सेज नहीं होते कि आपको ये चीजें रेडीली मिल जाए।
जी मैं कुछ कहना चाहूंगा जी।
Excuse me, just give me one sentence. If you consider a small group of 2-3 people internally, तो आपको बाहर से कंसल्टेंट ऐसी कोई चीज की मैं रिकमेंड नहीं कर रहा, उसकी नोटिफिकेशन करवा लें, ठीक है? Some of us can come to you and find out what support you need from us, from outside. ठीक है, हम गवर्नमेंट के मुख्य डिपार्टमेंट में बैठे हैं, हम इंडिपेंडेंट सिटीजन हैं, कोई यूनिवर्सिटी में, तो we can lend you some support. So based on that, जैसे आपको बड़ी अच्छी चीजें बताई हैं, आप कुछ और भी कर सकेंगे।
बिल्कुल सही। मैं तो आपको पहले देखें, मैंने अभी आपको जो पहली बात कही है वो यही कही है कि हम एक लिमिटेड रिसोर्सेज के साथ काम कर रहे हैं, अगर हमारे साथ कोई भी आके मिल के काम करना चाहता है तो हम उसको वेलकम करेंगे।
I'd like to suggest you.
तो फिर ये रिकॉर्ड कर लीजिए कि ये यूनिट
जी
बनाना
मैं
है।
इनको कुछ कहना चाहूंगा। डॉक्टर बिशारत बोलिए।
मैं बस एक कमेंट्स दे के बिल
डॉक्टर साहब, डॉक्टर बिशारत, जस्ट होल्ड फॉर अ मिनट।
आप बिफोर के वो यूनिट बनता है या नहीं बात की बात है। एक लो हैंगिंग फ्रूट है जिसको आप इजीली अवेल कर सकते हो, जो अपने क्लीनिंग मैकेनिज्म जो इतनी उसमें कॉस्ट डाल रहे हो, उसमें एक टेक्निकल फ्लॉ है यहाँ पे सिविल इंजीनियरिंग। आप जो ग्रीन बेल्ट्स बनाते हो, जो आपका ड्रेनेज सिस्टम, that sweeps all the dust in the form of mud and all these things on the road, which is mechanically dispersed. आपके जो ग्रीन बेल्ट्स होती है ना, उसमें जो अर्थ फिलिंग का लेवल है, दैट शुड बी 2 to 3 inches लेस देन योर फैंस। ठीक है, ताकि वो पानी जब ओवरफ्लो होता है वो आपके रोड शोल्डर्स पे आता है और वो डस्ट लेके आता है। अगर आप उसको कंट्रोल कर ले, आपका 80% जो स्वीपिंग है उसका बजट आपका कम हो जाए। आपका 20%, अभी मोस्ट 20% आपका जो डिस्पर्शन रेट है वो कम हो जाए। ठीक है, तो आप इसको जरूर इम्प्लीमेंट कीजिए कि जो आपकी जो ग्रीन बैंड्स हैं उनमें जो अर्थ फिलिंग लेवल है। मैं अक्सर जब गाड़ी चला के देखता हूँ तो मुझे ये सिंपल इंजीनियरिंग का एक फ्लॉ है अक्रॉस द कंट्री, नॉट जस्ट सीडीए, एवरीवेयर। ठीक है, I was laughing when Prime Minister CM of Punjab was during smog कि जी धो दे सड़क ऐसा है। ठीक है, it's not एक वक्त धोएंगे आप, लेकिन दूसरे दिन फिर वही काम। ठीक है, तो इसको जरूर आप जो है
आपने बिल्कुल बहुत अच्छी सजेशन दी है। अब मैं आपको इसका बैकग्राउंड भी बता देता हूँ। फ्रॉम द लास्ट 7 to 8 years हमारे यहाँ कुछ इश्यूज, जो कोऑर्डिनेशन लेवल था वो कम हो गया। प्लस ये है कि जो आजमाइश होती है ना, वो कहते हैं ना एक्सपेरिमेंट करके बंदा सीख रहा होता है, तो हमारे पास कुछ नए आजमाने वाले भी आ गए, तो उन्होंने चीज़ें की हैं, हाश पाश की, लेकिन ये है कि अब जो है दोबारा उनको रीस्ट्रेंथन किया जा रहा है और काम उस पर आपको नजर भी आएगा। और ये बात आपकी ठीक है कि जो शोल्डर से पानी के साथ जो एरोजन हो रही है वो बहुत ज़्यादा है। तो उसके लिए एक काम तो ये किया गया था कि ड्रेनेज सिस्टम जो है ना वो साथ लाए जाए। तो ड्रेनेज सिस्टम इतना वायबल हो नहीं सकता, ज़्यादा हो नहीं सकता, तो इस वजह से वो भी एक कॉन्सेप्ट जो है तो स्क्रैप कर दिया गया।
लेकिन वो आप पता है कि आप सोर्स को किलने के
सर बिल्कुल उसी पे मैं आ रहा हूँ, मैं उसी पे आ रहा हूँ। उसी के लिए ये हो रहा है कि ग्रीन बेल्ट्स के ऊपर हम उसको रीशेपिंग करने जा रहे हैं और उसके अंदर ऐसा ऐसा अभी हमने रिसेंटली जो श्रीनगर हाईवे है उसको रीवैम्प कर रहे हैं टोटली। उसके अंदर हम पहले हमारे एक सिस्टम ये था कि पानी जो है वो वाटर टैंकर्स जाए, हमारी जो ग्रीन बेल्ट्स हैं जो साइडों पे शोल्डर्स के साथ हैं उसके साथ एक हमने ड्रेनेज बना दी थी। उसका भी इफेक्ट ये हुआ कि उसके अंदर भी मिट्टी आके रुकना शुरू हो गई और वो सारा रीवैम्प हो गया है। और उसके अंदर आपको नजर आएगा कि बेस्ट डिजाइन के साथ, बेस्ट इंजीनियरिंग सिस्टम्स के साथ हम वो रीवैम्प करेंगे। और उसके अंदर हमने हमें कुछ फंडिंग आई थी गवर्नमेंट ऑफ अजरबैजान से, उसके साथ हम ये काम कर रहे हैं। उसी मॉडल को फिर हम आगे माइबेला एवेन्यू और जो हमारी 9th एवेन्यू है या दूसरी एवेन्यूज हैं उनके ऊपर हम।
थैंक यू वेरी मच। एक मिनट डॉक्टर बिशारत की बात सुन ले। डॉक्टर साहब वेरी वेरी क्विकली जी।
जनाब जी, ये मैं पहले तो बहुत शुक्रिया अदा करूंगा ये NDRMF का कि इसने मौका दिया कि CDA और बाकी सारे डिपार्टमेंट्स को, प्लानिंग कमीशन को भी ये भी जा रही है, वरना इनको भी मैं बता देता कि मैं क्या कहना चाहता हूँ। देखें, मैं आपको CDA का थोड़ा सा ये समझा दूँ। CDA का ये समझा दूँ कि इसमें एनवायरनमेंट डायरेक्टरेट जो है इट डजंट डील विद सॉलिड वेस्ट और वेस्ट वाटर, उसके लिए इनके अलग डायरेक्टरेट्स हैं। तो लेकिन DG साहब ने बहुत अच्छी बातें की हैं और मैं इनको पूरी सपोर्ट देना चाहता हूँ। आई एम बेसिकली सिविल इंजीनियर, जैसे मैंने पहले बताया था, स्पेशलाइज्ड इन एनवायरमेंटल इंजीनियरिंग। तो जितने आपके मसाइल हैं एयर पोल्यूशन से रिलेटेड, वाटर पोल्यूशन से रिलेटेड, सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट से रिलेटेड, उसके लिए इंडिजिनस सॉल्यूशंस हमारे पास हैं, हमने इम्प्लीमेंट किए हैं, पूरे पाकिस्तान में किए हैं, मुल्क से बाहर किए हैं। मैं ऑस्ट्रेलियन सिटीजन हूँ, मुझे बाहर से इसी काम के लिए उन्होंने बुलाया था। उसके अलावा रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी पे तो आपको जितना आपका वेस्ट वाटर इस वक्त है वो ट्रीट नहीं हो रहा, बिकॉज योर 3 वेस्ट वाटर ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट्स are not being operated properly. उसको मेंटेनेंस के प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, उनको रिहेबिलिटेट करने के लिए, उसके अलावा एयर पोल्यूशन जो आपकी होती है, आपने स्वीपिंग की बात की, इसके लिए बहुत सिंपल सॉल्यूशंस हैं। आपको रोड स्वीपर्स, मैकेनिकल स्वीपर्स पहले ही आपके पास हैं, मौजूद हैं, और लेने की जरूरत नहीं है। मैकेनिकल स्वीपर्स आर जस्ट फॉर वो जो आपकी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एवेन्यू उसके लिए खूबसूरती के लिए है। बाकी आपके जितने स्वीपर्स हैं हमारे पास, इनको हमने फारग नहीं करना। ये जो हजारों की फोर्स है, ये किधर जाएगी? ये बेरोजगार हो जाएगी। इनके लिए मैं आपको सोल्यूशन दूंगा कि किस तरीके से डस्ट ना उड़े। और हमने इंडिजिनस सॉल्यूशंस बनाने हैं। हमने कोई बाहर से ला के, जिसके लिए पैसा नहीं है हमारे पास, पहले मुल्क का क्या हाल है, गरीब मुल्क है। आपको इंडिजिनस सॉल्यूशंस, प्रैक्टिकल सॉल्यूशंस, प्रैक्टिकेबल सॉल्यूशंस, इंप्लीमेंटेबल सॉल्यूशंस आपको इन तमाम प्रॉब्लम्स के देंगे। सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट के, सॉलिड वेस्ट कन्वर्जन इनटू एनर्जी के, वेस्ट वाटर कन्वर्जन इनटू इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, इनटू गैस, इनटू फर्टिलाइजर एंड रिसाइकलेबल वाटर। उस सारे पानी को जो इस वक्त ज़ाय कर दिया जाता है, अबाउट 70 मिलियन गैलन्स पर डे जो फेंक दिया जाता है, उसको रिसाइकल करके थ्रू योर ऑलरेडी इंस्टॉल्ड वेस्ट वाटर ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट्स हम वापस इस्लामाबाद में लाएंगे। ये सब चीज़ें पॉसिबल हैं। आपको सिर्फ प्रॉपर जो है टेक्निकल एडवाइस की जरूरत है, जिसके लिए हम हाजिर हैं। और आपके चेयरमैन ने मुझे कहा है,
Thank you. We have some more.
तो एक कोई कम से कम एक नतीजा तो निकला है ना इस मीटिंग का, कि आपको एक एडवाइस मिल रही है सीडीए को, तो आपका वेस्ट वाटर का, सॉलिड वेस्ट का और एयर पोल्यूशन का प्रॉब्लम हम हल कर देंगे। आप
बिल्कुल, हम दिस इज द फर्स्ट मीटिंग, और इसके बाद हम एक और काइंड ऑफ मोर सोल्यूशन ओरिएंटेड मीटिंग, और ताकि हम इसको आपके जितने भी जो आइडियाज हैं हम इनको आगे कंक्रीट कर सकें और लेके जा सकें। मैडम
जी 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 डॉक्टर साहब ने आप हमारे साथ मिलकर काम करें, हमें उस पर कोई इतराज नहीं है। दूसरी चीज ये है कि आपने कहा कि हम शायद स्टाफ को खत्म कर रहे हैं। आपको मैं बताता चलूं कि 2800 बंदा हमने रिसेंटली सैनिटेशन वर्क के लिए अपॉइंट किया है, ताकि जो है इस्लामाबाद में स्वीपिंग के लिए काम जो है वो बेहतर अंदाज में हो सके। मैंने सिर्फ बात की थी एयर पोल्यूशन के हवाले से, और जो आपने बात कही है कि हमारे पास स्वीपर्स बहुत ज्यादा हैं, माजूद के साथ हमारे पास 4 स्वीपर्स हैं, और 4 स्वीपर से शहर नहीं चला करते।
Thank you so much. So it is very fortunate to share space with all of you. Coming from World Food Program and representing UN with my colleague Noman here. So coming from World Food Program and also with my colleague Noman here from UN, this is very useful for us, and the work that we did in 2019 on detailed causes of smog, not 2019, 17 actually, whereby like 5 years ago we identified that the transport sector is the main contributor. So it's very good to know that we are working on these lines. Just one thing to suggest from NAS, since he's looking at this monitoring system, which is very good. And we at UN are talking a lot about anticipatory action and early warning for the disasters that we can see, like floods and cyclones. So I will appreciate that once we have this, detailed data on air quality monitoring, we can come up with something, or we can suggest something that we can have an early warning system. So we can translate the technical messages from your network and data to the layman or public in a way that they know, okay, today perhaps they should not send the children to the school because it's going to be a bad air quality day. So things like this, AA and early warning action will be very helpful, and these are the areas where also WFP and UN can work. And the thing that ma'am mentioned about convergence of this stunting and air pollution, because at WFP we have a major program on nutrition, and we are only addressing it through food. But if we can address the causes and air pollution, this is also an area where we can work together. So I'm taking these key takeaways and we'll share with the management, and we are open to discuss it further. So thank you so much for having me.
Just a quick response.
Yes.
So, this excellent suggestion, just to share with you that I have already developed a air quality dashboard for the decision makers and the public. It's an integrated concept. So even individual can give feedback or can complain about that. So I developed for Punjab, and unfortunately it's been notified in the Punjab Government Gazette, but not implemented yet. So similar could be implemented for ICT region as
That's
templates.
also in code language for the.
Yes, it's for all, even I written all these messages and advisory notes in English and Urdu for all these things.
That's great to know.
Yeah, that's in place, I mean, it can be replicated, so.
Yes, can I just one?
Okay, right.
That's up. Yes.
एक mic बेटा.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Mohammed Awsal. I served in planning commission almost 20 years as a joint chief economist, and the last assignment was advisor development project. उसमें सर मैं वही डॉक्टर अनीस साहब की बात हो जो उन्होंने एक्ट 1996-7 की परहैप्स बात की थी, तो हमारी मेन जो इश्यूज शुरू होते हैं वो होते हैं पुअर प्लानिंग से, एंड देन उसकी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन एंड कंटिन्यूटी। ये 3 मेजर प्रॉब्लम मैंने पब्लिक सेक्टर में, प्राइवेट सेक्टर में ये देखा है, और 3 तरह की सर उसमें इनपुट आती है, एक फ्रॉम द पॉलिटिकल कॉरिडोर, दूसरा ब्यूरोक्रेट्स की तरफ से, और तीसरा टेक्निकल लोगों की तरफ से। और हमारी या मैं हमेशा से यही हमारी जो भी एक्नेस या एनईसी की मीटिंग्स होती है उसमें यही था कि अंटिल अनलेस के जो हमारे टेक्निकल लोग हैं उनकी इनपुट पर वेल नहीं करेगी तो उसमें सक्सेस रेट जो है वो बहुत कम हो जाता है। और एक और बड़ा इशू सर जो है ना वो कोऑर्डिनेशन अमंग द मिनिस्ट्रीज, डिविजन्स एंड द फेडरल टू प्रोविंशियल एंड प्रोविंशियल टू देन लोकल गवर्नमेंट। ये एक बड़ा इशू है कि वो सैलोज में काम हो रहा होता है और वो चीजें नहीं होती हैं। तो हमारे पास ना तो सर पॉलिसीज की कमी है, जैसे तौकीर साहब अभी वो कह रहे थे कि जी वो डेटा का बड़ा इशू है, डेटा पाकिस्तान ब्यूरो स्टैटिस्टिक्स सर्टन रूल्स रेगुलेशंस वो बनाते हैं, एंड दैट डेटा इज एंडोर्स्ड बाय द इंटरनेशनल एजेंसीज लाइक एशियन डेवलपमेंट बैंक, वर्ल्ड बैंक एंड अदर इंस्टीट्यूशंस। तो उसमें ऐसा सच नहीं है, वो थोड़ा एरर का भी 8-10% डेफिनेटली होगा, तो इतने ज्यादा वो उसमें ब्लंडर नहीं होते, और सारे रिसर्चर उसी को यूज करते हुए ये पॉलिसीज एक्चुअली पॉलिसीज के बनाने में, प्लान्स के बनाने में, या कोई इवन कह लें आप हमारे जितने भी आज तक वो विजन बनाते रहे, तो मेन उसमें यही होता है कि विद द चेंज ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, विद द चेंज ऑफ यू सी इवन सेक्रेटरी, तो वो सारी चीजें चेंज होना, और 2-3 सीढ़ियां जब हम क्रॉस कर जाते हैं देन अगेन वी स्टार्ट फ्रॉम द 1-3-4 पे जाते हैं, देन अगेन वी स्टार्ट। तो मैंने लास्ट वीक हमारे साहब प्रोफेसर ऑक्सफोर्ड के थे, तो उनका ये कहना था कि द डे जिस दिन हमें कोई प्रॉब्लम आ जाती है तो वो हमारे लिए बड़ा खुशी का दिन होता है, जैसे वो फ्लोर से भी आया कि इंटरनल के रूट कॉज का हमें वो पता नहीं चलेगा तो हम उसकी जो है वो सोल्यूशन भी नहीं निकाल सकेंगे। तो हमारी एक तो ये इशू है, गवर्नेंस का इशू है, सीडीए कहाँ तक इंडिपेंडेंट है ये इनको भी पता, हमें भी पता है लिविंग इन इस्लामाबाद कि कहाँ तक ये अपनी चीजों को जो है वो इम्प्लीमेंट कर पाते हैं। द सेम इज विद द अदर इंस्टीट्यूशंस। तो यहाँ पे बाई बुक चलने का वो इतना ज्यादा कल्चर नहीं है, बाई प्रैक्टिस हम चलते हैं, अदरवाइज कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में सारी चीजें प्रोवाइड कर दी गई। हमने खुद से PFM एक्ट बनाया विद द कोलैबोरेशन ऑफ वर्ल्ड बैंक, फिनेंशियल और ये हमारा डेवलपमेंट पोर्टफोलियो उसको कि डिस्टॉर्टेड था ताकि उसको स्ट्रीमलाइन करें। PFM एक्ट को खुद ही फाइनेंस भी और प्लानिंग वायलेट करता है। Then we have a number of projects in the green book, PSDP के around 1200 projects हैं हमारे पास, जो कि पॉइंट क्या है? सॉरी,
पॉइंट उसमें ये कि हमारा इम्प्लीमेंटेशन का और कंटिन्यूटी का ये एक मेजर प्रॉब्लम है। अदरवाइज तो चीजें हमारे सामने एक्सपोज होके आ रही होती हैं, या आप जब एयर क्वालिटी की बात करते हैं इसमें नॉइज को भी अगर आप एडअप कर लेते हैं तो स्टेटिस्टिक्स और भी खराब हो जाते हैं। 3 व्हीलर की बात हमने देखी, बाराको का हमने डेटा देखा, फिर हमने गौरी टाउन का देखा, तो ब्रेकलन का देखा, तो ये तो गरीब के मसाइल लग रहे हैं ना सारे। तो हमारी वो टारगेट पॉपुलेशन वो है ही नहीं है। वी आर थिंकिंग अबाउट द सेक्टर्स, वी आर थिंकिंग अबाउट द हाई राइज बिल्डिंग, लेकिन ये जितना भी नॉइज क्रिएट किया जाता है दैट इज द पुअर सेगमेंट ऑफ द सोसाइटी जिनकी वजह से ये क्रिएट। और वो
सजेशंस क्या आपकी?
सजेशन अब ये जितनी भी हो जाए, सजेशन आ भी जाए, मतलब फिर ये कि हमारे पास स्टडीज, सेक्टोरल स्टडीज, एवरीथिंग इज अवेलेबल। इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के लिए कोई अच्छे ड्राइवर्स, अच्छे वो लोग जो को उसको इम्प्लीमेंट कर सकें, उसमें गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिटिकल विल का होना ये बहुत जरूरी है। जी थैंक यू डॉक्टर साहब। मैं साहब मैं बताऊं जस्ट वन, ये काफी देर से
बहुत शुक्रिया जी, आपने बिल्स किलन को चांस दिया है, क्योंकि ये तो बदनाम बहुत है, इतने बुरे हम नहीं है। हम इस तरह के इस्लामाबाद में थोड़े से बैठे हैं, 40 to 50 तक बाकी ऑलमोस्ट खत्म हो गए हैं, कुछ पिछले 2-3 साल में बिजनेस इतना नीचे चला गया, लोग छोड़ के चले गए। तो बाकी यह है कि आगे जो जमीन नहीं है, जैसा सीडीए नहीं बैठने देता, या और रावलपिंडी पे इर्द गिर्द सोसाइटी इतनी बन गई है कि हमें जगह नहीं मिलती कि हम मड को बनाएं और ईंट बनाएं उससे और पका के शहर में बेचें। तो इसकी जो पोल्यूशन है वो तो नजर बहुत आती है ना दूर से। तो उस पर हमारी एसोसिएशन ने जो आज से 4 साल 5 साल पहले से काम शुरू किया था, गवर्नमेंट ने कोई हमें इनिशिएटिव नहीं दिया था, हमने खुद से किया था। हम नेपाल गए, वहाँ से ये जो नीका है वहाँ है कसा साहब, उन्होंने हमें काफ़ी सपोर्ट दी थी। उनके तावन से उन्होंने कोई एनजीओ वगैरह से नेपाल में हम गए, फिर उनको यहाँ पे इनवाइट किया। ईपीए इस्लामाबाद से मीटिंग्स की, इन्होंने वर्कशॉप्स वगैरह काफ़ी करवाई हैं। काम तो हमारे साथ काफ़ी टाइम से वो कर रहे हैं। तो कमी उसमें सिर्फ ये आती है कि टेक्निकल सपोर्ट हमें नहीं मिलती, मिली भी नहीं आज तक। जो भी हमने किया है अपनी मदद आपके तहत किया है। मैंने सबसे पहले ब्रिज के लिए यहाँ पे जिगजैग किया था आज से 4 साल पहले, जब नई नई टेक्नोलॉजी लाहौर में पहली दफ़ा हुई। तो उसके बाद इस्लामाबाद ईपीए में मैडम फरजाना अल्ताफ से हमारी मीटिंग हुई, तो मैंने उनको कहा ये मैं करता हूँ एज ए प्रेजिडेंट रावलपिंडी इस्लामाबाद। तो उन्होंने कहा बड़ी अच्छी बात है, लेकिन मुझे जो है माली सपोर्ट की जरूरत थी, मेरे पास इतने मसाइल नहीं थे। कोई भी टेक्नोलॉजी आप नई अडॉप्ट करते हैं तो उससे कॉस्ट भी आती है और रिस्क भी होता है कि जो प्रोडक्ट आप बना रहे हैं वो सही बन भी पाएगी या नहीं। वो कच्ची ईंट रह जाए तो वो कचरा हो जाती है, वो इस्तेमाल भी नहीं होती, उस पर लाखों खर्च हो जाते हैं। जो कोयला होता है, जो सबसे महंगी आइटम है, 140,000 रुपये टन है, वो भी जल जाता है, ईंट कच्ची रह जाए उसके पैसे नहीं मिलते ना। तो इस तरह वो हमने काफ़ी मसाइल देखे हैं, काफ़ी मखरूज भी हुए इस पर, लेकिन काम चलता रहा। अभी ऑलमोस्ट ज़्यादातर भट्टे जिगजैग हैं इस्लामाबाद में जो रह गए हैं। उसमें कुछ लोग जो धुआं नुमाया नजर आता है ना, मोटरवे से आप एयरपोर्ट की तरफ जाते हैं तो लेफ्ट साइड पे, उसके ये होता है कि सारे लोग जो है ना पूरी तरह उसको फॉलो नहीं कर रहे होते, या तो किसी को पता नहीं होता, कुछ लोग जानबूझ के भी नहीं कर रहे होते। तो हम जो है मीटिंग करते रहते हैं, ईपीए वाले भी हमें बहुत ज्यादा तंग करते हैं, लोकल इंतजामिया भी आती है हमारे पास एसी साहबान। तो क्योंकि ये डायरेक्टली हमारे साथ होते हैं, तो इसलिए इस पे जो है ना जिगजैग जो है इस वक्त सस्ती तरीन टेक्नोलॉजी है दुनिया में, और पाकिस्तान जैसे मुल्कों में हमने खुद ही अपनी मजाक के तहत जो है ना इसको कर लिया, काफी हद तक कर लिया। तो जो थोड़ी बहुत कमी पेशी है उसको भी दूर करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। इसमें यही हो, हमें कोई टेक्निकल सपोर्ट हो जहाँ पे हम गलती कर रहे होते हैं, कोई ऐसे इंजीनियर्स या जैसे नस्ट के साथ भी हमने काफी सेशन किए, तो ये इन्होंने बताया तो बहुत है, लेकिन ऐसा कोई सिस्टम हो कि हम वहाँ जाएं, एक दफ्तर हो, उनको बताएं हमें प्रॉब्लम, हमारा चेक करें सिस्टम कहाँ हम गलती कर रहे हैं ना। इस तरह की हमें जो सहूलत नहीं मिल पा रही, जैसे सेंसर भाई ने बताए हैं। इस तरह मैं वियतनाम का विजिट किया था ऐसे 8-10 साल पहले, तो वहाँ भी उन्होंने जो है ना टनल पे चले गए हैं वो, तो वहाँ जो है ना उन्होंने एक डिपार्टमेंट बनाया हुआ है, वहाँ आप जाएं आपको हर तरह की सपोर्ट मिलती है, वो हर चीज बना के उन्होंने रखी हुई है। आप जाएं वो आपको बैठाते हैं, चाय पिलाते हैं, आपको सारा सुनते हैं, फिर आपके साथ जाते हैं, आपकी साइट पे आपको चेक करते हैं। उसका टेक्निकल सपोर्ट चाहिए ना, जिसका लोगों को पता नहीं। तो हमने क्या किया, हमारे जो वर्कर्स होते हैं सबसे अनपढ़ किस्म के लोग होते हैं, देहातों से आगे पीछे, हमारा कारोबार भी देहातों में होता है, शहर में तो हमें वैसे भी नहीं आते, तो मिट्टी वगैरह की जरूरत होती है, दूर दराज होता है। इस्लामाबाद क्योंकि अब फैल गया, किसी हम शहर के नजदीक आ गए हैं, पहले तो G10 और G11 से आगे काफी टाइम, अभी तो बहुत सारी आबादी हो गई है ना, वो तो तेजी से फैली है। तो हम जो है ना हर वक्त तावन की कोशिश करते हैं, लेकिन एक इंडस्ट्री होती है ना, उसके कुछ मसाइल होते हैं, तो इंडस्ट्री को शिफ्ट करने में कास्ट भी आती है, लेकिन गवर्नमेंट ने या किसी अदारे ने हमें कोई सपोर्ट नहीं की, फिर भी हमने किया काम, आज भी कर रहे हैं, आइंदा भी करेंगे। तो हमें खुद इस चीज़ का एहसास है कि ये जो धुआं हम देते हैं ये अच्छा नहीं है, इसमें बहुत सारी गैसेस भी हैं, तो उसका कार्बन तो डेफिनेट दूर से नजर आ जाता है। तो इसके हम यही चाहते हैं कि जो टेक्निकल सपोर्ट कुछ ऐसा सिस्टम बने जिससे हमें जहाँ पे मिसाल, जैसे हम कोयला जला रहे होते हैं ना, भट्टा चला रहे होते हैं, तो नीचे कोयला जो है ना वो आग छोड़ देती है, आग ऊपर उठ जाती है, वो नीचे कच्चा रह जाता है, वो फिर धुआं छोड़ता है, ठीक है, वो फिर जलता भी नहीं है और सही तरह वो इस्तेमाल नहीं होता, और उसकी कास्ट बढ़ जाती है, कोयला यानी ज़ाया हो जाता है। इस तरह के मसाइल बहुत होते हैं। ईंट सुरख हो जाती है, थोड़ा ईंट आपको पता है यहाँ पे कच्ची होती है, मिट्टी का कलर थोड़ा ऑफ वाइट हो पकने के बाद, तो क्ले इस तरह किया, तो इस तरह के मसाइल हैं, लेकिन फिर भी हमने काम किया, इंदा भी करेंगे। थोड़ा बहुत रह गया उसमें, यही है कि हम भी कोशिश करते हैं, ईपीए भी हमारे ऊपर हर डंडा लेकर हमारे पीछे होती है, तो करते हैं। फरजाना अल्ताफ साहब ने काफ़ी काम किया है, तो आइंदा भी हम करेंगे। अभी पिछले दिनों में मीटिंग सी, काफ़ी भट्टों पे उन्होंने विजिट भी किया, मैं भी साथ था, तो काफ़ी ऑलमोस्ट जो है ना ज़्यादातर अभी जिगजैग पे जो थोड़ी बहुत धुआं आ रहा है वो मिस्टेक की वजह से आ रहा है, या उनको समझ नहीं आ रही है, बाद लोग थोड़ी जानबूझ के कर देते हैं ना, 100% तो कोई भी दुरुस्त नहीं होता। तो इसके अलावा CDA का जो मसला है, जहाँ पे थोड़ा सा एरिया है वहाँ सेक्टर बनेंगे, लेकिन बहुत पहले से आपने अक्वायर किया, वहाँ पे फिर वो जमींदारों के पास थी, उन्होंने आगे कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पे दे दी, लोगों ने पट्टे लगा दिए काफी सालों से, वो पैसे भी उनसे ले रहे हैं ना रेंट के। तो अगर आप शिफ्ट करेंगे, करना चाहते हैं, या आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम है, उसमें भी आपकी मदद कर सकते हैं। सिर्फ इतना होगा कि कुछ उनको इतने पैसे दे जाएंगे, या उठ के दूसरी जगह पे अपना कोई सेटअप बना लें, कम से कम दे, ये नहीं हम कहते कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा दे। हम तो हर तरह का तावन हमेशा करते हैं, आइंदा भी करेंगे।
जी, थैंक यू वेरी मच। राइट साहब, लास्ट वर्ड्स, उसके बाद I'll conclude.
Maybe this is not last words. I just wanted to say that this has been a great session. I mentioned at the outset it was a statement which I really mean, that I am learning. But at the end of almost 2.5 hours, I am quite frankly I'm at a loss. We've heard great things in this meeting, coming from various quarters, and every single word has merit in it. So we can't just ignore whatever has been said. But I see when Anis approached me and he was talking about this, I saw a way forward. I'm lost now. Because I feel, and I'll be very candid, and Anis, this is saying it while you are present over here, I still feel that the only way to move forward right now is to start realizing some low-hanging fruits. These are great recommendations, great suggestions, but as has been said by a number of colleagues over here, there is a lot of despondency also. And to me, the despondency was in some ways overwhelming the good parts of this conversation. Ali Tokish Sheikh was very articulate and eloquent in highlighting the three very despondent areas that he feels need to be addressed, but which are difficult. I feel there is a way to overcome the despondency, and we should really move forward in a manner where we can show something on the ground, a la what Anis Saab has put in his presentation. The low-hanging fruits, if we can show them in a controlled environment like Islamabad, I think we can really do a lot. Supported fully by the kind of data that is being collected based on the monitoring systems that Dr. Fahim has. Because there's no substitute for data. And at the end of the day, we are talking about behavioral change. Unless the behavioral change happens, we are not going to realize the full benefits, or we will not reach fruition of all the initiatives, be at the policy level, be at the operational level, or even at the pilot level. I just wanted to, with that, let me just say that the low-hanging fruits can be realized in Islamabad. It's all a question of enforcement. And I agree with the Tokish Sheikh Saabji governance, because of the governance issues, enforcement is very difficult. But we have a very good model which Dr. Anis referred to in the form of the motorway police chief. Enforcement there is I won't say it's ideal, but it's the best that one can see, even if we compare to the developed countries. If we can have it there, we can have it in Islamabad. It's just a question of putting the right incentives in place, the right enabling environment, and we have a demonstration which is Dr. Anis has said that we'll support. So we can get the enforcement done, and I think that's the kind of demonstration that we really need to put on ground. On the governance, when he talks about whether it's the federal level or the provincial level, this is going to continue. I don't think so. We are going to overcome this 18th Amendment debate and whether it should be there or not, and what subjects should be at the federal level and what should be at the provincial level. We need to work around it, and the only way to work around it is what is happening today in Lahore, or what happened after the 2022 floods, or the 2010 floods, or the 2005 earthquake. The entire vertical system was totally aligned. The provinces were following the guidelines issued by and policies issued by NDMA or ERA at that time, because it was something that was major and everyone could relate to it. As we said at the beginning of this meeting, air pollution is something which one can't see. The effects are something which are long-term, and those are also, people just want to focus on them. I think there's a need to raise awareness, and that is the only way you can bring about behavioral change. No matter how much money you put into it, if you don't raise awareness and down to the citizen level or up to the citizen level, and looking especially at the subnational level. And data is the only way it can change it. Believe me, data supported by a demonstration pilots. That's the only way you can raise awareness and bring about behavioral change. I mean, if you talk about doing away with open defecation, it has not happened in the last 40 years. People still go out and defecate in the open. So that's the behavioral change. No matter how many latrines you provide to people in the rural areas, they'll still go out and defecate in the open. There are reasons for it. There are social reasons for it. So we have to start looking at that attitudinal approach towards air pollution. And the two-wheelers and three-wheelers will only start changing. The brick kilns will only start changing their way of operation if and only if they understand the adverse impact this has on health and other things also. Last but not the least, my one request to everyone is please don't go for isolated solutions or solutions in silos. Air pollution is not a one sector or one area issue. It's a multi-sectoral issue. We have to start looking at it in terms of a multi-sectoral approach. So please, whatever solutions we look at, they should be seen as part of a whole and not only looking at air pollution per se. Because as soon as I heard some solutions, and I can assure you, one of the solutions was the gentleman who was here, and he said that you can capture the billboards that can capture air pollution or the PM particulate material. It's a great solution, but it's immediately the question was asked, what about the groundwater? I think we have to look at this in a holistic manner. Please, let's not get too excited and carried away. On the brick kilns, I am also a great proponent of green construction. Why can't we replace burnt bricks with mud bricks? The same people, the people who own brick kilns, they can train artisans to start making mud bricks, compressed mud bricks. They have almost the equal compressive strength as burnt bricks. And I won't say they're net zero carbon, but they are at least carbon neutral. Let's do that. Over to you.
One quick,
Yes,
I will
please.
quote. That's very important point. It's general issue and challenge. This is, for instance, I used to teach my students that whenever I visit my physician, he never educated me about that. You got this infection because of air pollution. Always he says some sort of allergies, some sort of allergies. So this is the general statement starting back in the rural setup and going up the way to this air complex, medical complex and all. They're just simply allergens, allergy. So I guess we should take them on board as well. And we request them, please educate the people that it's because of air pollution. You are exposed to air pollution. I guess this is going to make a huge difference. This could be like a very low-hanging fruit. So if we've got the physicians on board on this.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. I think it was insightful, inspirational, and we should have done it earlier. Dr. Thank you very much for bringing it to our attention. And we've been actually in our discussions, we've been talking about this, but we've never been able to kind of take that step which we have taken today. So just to kind of wrap it up, I think what I'm seeing is, there are 3 or 4 kind of streams on which we have to start working rather immediately. One is very clear, which is regulatory enforcement. And EPA and CDA have a major role to play, and we are here to support you. I mean, we can actually, we can sit down, we can chart out a plan immediately, starting from tomorrow, early next week, and we see that, okay, how we can help you in doing that. And similarly, EPA has not been able to come today, but we'll go to them. And we'll basically ask them how we can help you, how we can support you. And if you have a capacity issue, let's sit down and see that how we can address that capacity issue. So I think that's regulatory, and we try to take motorway police or Islamabad police. There's a name for that, Islamabad police. Islamabad Capital Police. So I think we take them on board as well, and we see that without really going too much into this changes in the laws and the regulations and everything, whatever is in existence, they start implementing that. There are some very easy solutions, as you all actually mentioned about that, this peak hour duration kind of extension, that can make an impact, and similarly, try to kind of incentivize people to reduce the number of vehicles on the road. And then I will check with the NICA how far, how deep they are in for their work for this vehicular examination labs or whatever they called it, which they were supposed to actually establish. So we'll do that, and if they are having, I know that they'll be having capacity constraints, I think we'll sit down and we'll see that. So I think this is one thing. These are low-hanging fruits, what we're talking about, without really making the policy changes, without making any regulation changes. These are the small measures, small things and steps they have to do here and there. The other thing is a more broader kind of a policy, which Nadia mentioned. And, she said one policy node, which we are going to be setting that up and drafting that with the Planning Commission. And we'll be actually submitting that to them. And that policy note actually identifies the areas, and some of those areas actually converting into some of the projects. And then we see that which agency is the best suited and has a mandate to implement those projects. The other one is a very important one, is a data, or I call it a broader technology element or technological stream. I think what we need to do is we need to, institution like us, like NDRMF, we need to support this implementation of the technology and more wider use of the technology. Rather, it's a sensor based, which seems okay. So I think we need to start implementing that. And so we'll put together a small action plan for that. And we will make available some resources from our own budget. And otherwise, we'll take some resources from other donors as well. For example, World Bank is keen to work on that. ADB is keen, and a few others are keen. And I think this might be a very good opportunity for us to actually venture into the private sector as well. And I've been told that actually some banking institutions are keen to support in some of these works as well. So we'll work on that. Now the fourth one is, this came actually several times during the discussion today, and I think this can actually kickstarted very, very quickly, and that's about behavioral change and slash advocacy and campaigning, basically. I think this is an area where we can actually start working already, and we will come up. We have a communication expert with us, and he's a consultant, and he's coming on board for other purposes, but this can be added to his PORs without any difficulty or challenge. And we can actually ask him to come up with a kind of a whole campaign for advocacy campaign and behavior change campaign, and we can actually put it behind the buses and some other places. And this is going to be a kind of a long-term kind of when we make use of social media, we'll come up with an app or something like this. And so we'll come up with a whole series of kind of actions on behavior change as well. We have one Dr. Saab who is based in University of Dera Ghazi Khan, who has actually done a PhD in behavioral change. Dr. Imran Lodi, and he has done some wonderful work actually, and he keep on sharing his work with me as well. And for example, how to redesign your electricity bill that it doesn't really feel heavy on you, even though it is heavy. so some of these work actually, and so he's very much keen to work on these kind of issues. He can give the ideas which after the designer actually have to come up with the different products. So I think that's another something which actually can be very, very quickly started. And so which we are going to do that. एयर क्वालिटी यूनिट आप जरूर उसके ऊपर सोचिएगा जी, और आपको अगर उसमें किसी किस्म की हेल्प चाहिए, सपोर्ट चाहिए, तो we are here. Other than that, I think what we should do is, if this is fine, I think we can agree on it. We can kind of put this together into some kind of a written format or whatever we want to call it. And we all kind of will share with you is, sharing meaning like we subscribe to it. You can give your inputs, and then we kickstart the work on it. And I think so. So these are the kind of the points which I would say that we can very immediately start working on these things. But Raisa, please.
Is there anything else? Yeah, conclude.
The other point I was just wanted to make it that this group, we retain this group, and we'll bring some kind of frequency to our meetings, and so we can actually, keep each other accountable as well.
Can I just, sir, I think if you'll permit me, I'll either you could or I could speak to Farzana Altaf, and what we could suggest to her is कि हम अगले हफ्ते इस तरह आपने बहुत अच्छी suggestion दी बजाय से कि उनको बुलाएं हम उनकी तरफ से ले जाएंगे, then she can't go anywhere, she has to be there. तो आप उनसे बात कर लीजिएगा और उनसे मतलब it shouldn't be later than a week from today, and we'll just go and share this thing with her, and यही इन्हीं लोगों को बुला लीजिएगा. Because there is science and then there is the citizen's perspective, and we will share it with her and tell her. And then I think the important thing is that she will tell us what are her issues. मतलब वो बताए ना कि क्या, for example, जिस तरह वो नादिया कह रही थी कि अब वो climate change policy आ गई, इसको लोग बात ही नहीं करते, इसकी लोग उसकी बात करते हैं. So let her tell us what are the problems. These are the things we think we should do. So मेरे ख्याल है this is the next ideal step would be to meet with her and get her response from her.
मैं कर लूँगा जी. Raisa, please.
कुछ कहना चाह रहे थे?
Sir, being NIDM national think tank, we are think tank in NDM में, so हमारे पास जैसे आपको पता है NUC के अंदर नेशनल इमरजेंसी ऑपरेशन सेंटर के अंदर प्रॉपर कैपेबिलिटी है. डॉक्टर साहब के पास डैशबोर्ड है और हमारे पास थ्रू सैटेलाइट मॉनिटर करने की अभी हमारे पास 50 के लोग हैं, एक्सपर्ट्स हैं टेक के. तो मैं चाहूँगा कि हम जितने भी साइंटिस्ट हैं इनको भी ऑन बोर्ड ले, जैसे कि हमारी नेशनल इंटरनेशनल एकेडमिया, हम उनको ऑन बोर्ड लेके हमारा मैंडेट ही यही है कि हम बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस और बेस्ट सजेशंस निकालते हैं. तो इस ग्रुप के अंदर आई गेस एनडीएम एनआईडीएम जो है वो सपोर्ट कर सकता है इन सेंस कि हम भी कुछ सजेशंस में पार्टिसिपेट कर सकते हैं.
Sir, it's just a small suggestion after what has already been discussed. वो बहुत comprehensive था. In winters we are able to see the smog due to descent of moisture in the air, but in summers we are not able to. तो मुझे पहले ऐसा लगता था कि शायद ये खत्म हो जाती है समर्स में, बट नहीं, समर्स में खत्म नहीं होती. What's it's actually doing is कि ये जो हमारे ग्लेशियर्स हैं उसके ऊपर ये जो पार्टिकुलेट मैटर है उसकी एक लेयर बन रही है, एंड इट्स अ डार्क लेयर जो कि समर्स में जो सन रेज है उसको अब्जॉर्ब करती है, और ग्लेशियर मेल्टिंग बहुत ही ज्यादा तेज हो रही है इससे ना. वो बहुत बड़ा इशू है जो इवेंचुअली 25-30 years into it तो हम वी लॉस्ट और वाटर रिजर्व्स, और सी वाटर राइजिंग तो वो एक अलग फिनोमेना है उसके साथ. तो मैं जस्ट आई वांटेड टू हाईलाइट दिस कि एक ही बहुत बड़ा डिजास्टर है अभी इम्पेंडिंग है. सो थैंक यू.
Raisa.
I just wanted to thank NDRMF for convening this roundtable. First of all, offering Anis's idea and his initiative very sympathetic here. Thank you so much for that, and then organizing this roundtable. Also wanted to thank Smita over here.
Yes.
I've been constantly barraging her with WhatsApp messages, and she's been very patient. But wanted to thank her as well. And of course, Rima and other members of the team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
No, thank you very much, and thank you to Sumita and Rima. Maybe because of the air quality, she's not feeling well today. But yeah, she's